Good morning. Welcome in Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. What's up, DB?
Jay Will had that look on his face like, is something wrong with my voice? It doesn't.
You sound okay to me.
Well, I know something's wrong with my voice. I can't hear me, but it's fine.
You can't hear?
No.
Can we turn this thing up a little bit? Does
But
that help?
I'm guessing that.
That help?
Yeah, that helps.
There we
a
go.
little.
I think we're a little low. Mine was too.
Was it low?
Yeah, it was a little low. Like my blood sugar, but that's okay.
Jay Will had that look on his face like he smelled something bad. I'm like, he might not know the camera's on him. He was like,
I do that sometimes. I forget that we're not just audio.
yeah.
And sometimes I make a stink face when somebody says something. I'm like,
I know I do.
we got to fix the face a little bit. As a video medium.
Once I could stop, you guys kind of like foolproofed me being able to sabotage the camera.
Yeah.
Like basically took it out of the control of my hands.
Yeah, pretty much.
I had to immediately go back to work mode.
Yeah.
Because, when you're doing interviews and stuff, it's imperative that you don't have facial expressions when you're answering the questions.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to let coaches often know that you think they're full of it. So, what? It's not a real thing.
No, it is. It's just funny because.
So I have to remember that we're on it. Because sometimes we'll be doing interviews and I won't agree with something. And I'm like,
oh,
what the? What do you mean?
I'll only use him as an example because, we kind of, he's been good to us for a long time. But like sometimes Sam will say something and I'll have to fix my face.
Yeah, fix your face.
I'll be like, Sam, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
He's not the only one, but I know Sam wouldn't mind me saying.
Speaking of not making facial expressions.
You doing okay? You doing all right?
Hey, so I know this has happened to you.
Okay.
And if you say it hasn't, you're full of cockapoo.
Okay. Like the dog? Cockapoo is a dog.
Okay, sure.
The Cocker Spaniel.
So I was
mix?
saying cockapoo before there were all these fancy dog mixes.
Like hybrid poodles?
Yeah. Like labradoodles.
What about Bernedoodles?
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. Is that a Bernie's
the Bernese Mountain Dog.
I almost said Burmese because I like snakes.
No, it's not a Burmese python and a dog. That'd be weird.
It was wild sci-fi weekend at the old I Hotel. I had to skip through sci-fi. It was a lot of mega tech shark, anaconda, super gator.
A lot of like Megalodon.
No, that actually existed.
Allegedly,
these were fake. So I don't know if I'm sure you've done this, but like putting on deodorant, you don't realize you're at the end, and all of a sudden you get the red burn runway strip.
Oh,
because
yeah,
you
you're
lose
like hitting the plastic
deodorant and you get the plastic.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, your boy snapped this morning.
I was like, hey. How aggressively are you putting deodorant on that it hurts?
You gotta get in there. I get in there.
Like it's unpleasant. Don't get me wrong, but I've never.
No, I gotta
cause myself bodily injury that way.
That's funny you asked this. So everything has a reason, right?
Yeah.
And this is on the heels of seeing a lot of the guys at CJ's funeral yesterday. But
yeah.
I would sometimes watch guys. I'm not putting them on blast. But I would sometimes watch guys in the locker room like do their deodorant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ain't no way you got any deodorant out of that. Like you did like a little
drive-by?
Just a
little flyby?
It ain't working.
Just buzzing the tower?
Yeah. Now, I'm old, right? So we use a lot of aerosol too.
Oh, sure. Use the spray.
Man, I guarantee those guys were missing.
Well, yeah. If you're spraying like out here,
yeah,
you got to get up in there.
And I'm like, so I kind of made it. I'm like, I don't ever want to be the stinky kid. So
fair.
I'm getting it in there. I might cake it up. And I don't have any armpit hair, so I can go crazy if I want.
So you can get right up in there.
Yeah. So I need to. I don't know, man. Your boy might have a.
You got a contusion.
Man, I might have a red runway or something. And I didn't want to throw the bottle away because I saw something on my algorithm over the weekend where this chef makes grilled. This sounds mildly disgusting, so bear with me.
It sounds like it's about to be.
No, just for a minute.
Okay,
so hang in there.
All right.
So once you get to the end of the deodorant, and you have the little roll-up thing still, you throw it in the dishwasher. It's clean. You take it out. You melt butter. You pour it in there. and you use the butter like a roll-on.
Why?
Are we doing too much?
Yep, we're doing too much.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It looked very convenient.
We're doing too much.
Have you ever tried to spread non-room temperature butter?
It's, first of all, it's
here we go.
easier to get the butter to room temperature than it is to get an empty deodorant thing.
But once you're there, you're there.
Put it in the wash, and then melt butter, which, by the way, if you're melting butter anyway, then just spread that butter. You know what I mean? Like, we could save a couple steps there.
You're just raining on everybody's parade today. That's fine.
Like, if they made butter in something that resembled a deodorant
like
push-up thing, that would be great.
Wouldn't that be tremendous?
But to do it yourself, you have to go through a step that would resolve the need for the roll-on. You get what I'm saying?
It looked like a good idea.
The other thing you could do...
He buttered sourdough, and he'd like... But then he also uses mayo in place of butter now, so... Hey, that's the thing.
No, not for me.
Like,
pass.
People use mayo now for a butter substitute.
Pass. Why?
Because it browns nicely. Like, if you want a nice little crust on your toast.
No.
Because
not
me,
like
not me.
They still taste
allegedly
like
it cooks out. Not me.
I don't believe that.
But other people also use mayo as a binder.
The whites?
No, I said other people.
Yeah, you said not you. And it's obviously not me. So who does that leave?
Well, I don't.
It's the whites.
No, it's not what I said. It's not what I said.
I'm just saying they seem to be very fond of mayo. Other people, I don't know anybody in particular, but
we have mayo at the house.
Not a mayo guy.
I don't use it.
No,
I don't use it. But I have this app now that I can use where I can scan barcodes, and it tells me what's in the food. And I guess I didn't realize that the chicken salad at Costco has almost next to no carbs.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I'm riding with it.
Yeah, I don't like chicken salad.
Oh, man.
Or tuna salad.
It's the first time I bought it in probably 8-9 months. It used to be my go-to.
There's way too much mayo and stuff going on.
And I don't have anything to put it on, so I think I'm going to go with egg wraps. And I know the carnivore people, don't come at me that the egg wraps aren't
like carbless
all the way carnivore, but
close enough.
Yeah. My guy made yesterday, he did a meat sausage. He did his version of a Burger King eggnormous burrito in one of those wraps. It looks sensational.
Kobe says DB's right about mayo developing a crust better than butter, but mayo is disgusting. That's correct, Kobe.
So Kobe, I think, and I don't know, so don't quote me on this, but allegedly you can't taste the mayo.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
So my guy Southern vibing? Whoa, it's absolute free boot.
I'm not vibing with that guy at all.
Let's go, baby.
It's like those people that tell me they're like, oh,
like yeah, there he is.
Like you could just use Greek yogurt in your protein shake to like make and like no, you can taste the Greek yogurt. It's disgusting. It's terrible.
Dude, we run through Greek yogurt.
It's awful. It's not good.
It goes in just about everything.
They're like, no, you can, it cooks up. It's like, no, you can taste it still.
Scrambled eggs.
You can taste it. Yeah. Oh, you stir the cottage cheese and you can taste it.
I'm kind of off the cottage cheese.
I don't know these people.
Because the cottage cheese, I have to use the little speed bullet thing.
Yeah, because you got to like emulsify it.
Yeah, man, I'm not a lumps dude.
I'm not trying to mess with any of that. You know why? Because you can still taste it. I don't know these people with like these terrible palates. Just you can taste your food.
So ask the wifey, like when she deglazes or she cooks with alcohol, you can cook it off.
You cook off the actual alcohol, but there's a reason they use it. It's because the flavor stays.
Yeah.
You cook off the part that makes you drunk.
Hey, all you people that like pine for the old whiskey fillet, can you taste the whiskey?
Yeah, otherwise they wouldn't do it.
I don't know, man.
That's why you yelling. No, I'm just saying, okay, if you're going to cook with something, right? Here, hear me out. If you're going to cook with something like alcohol, right? Yeah. Alcohol basically has two things. It makes
I watched the dude marinate wings in Modelo yesterday.
It makes you drunk.
Was he drunk?
Or it has a flavor.
I wonder why he picked Modelo.
Those are basically the two things. So the alcohol cooks off. The part that makes you drunk cooks off. So what's left is the flavor. Otherwise, why would you use it?
I don't know.
You wouldn't. That's the point.
It sounds like a very...
Like you just wouldn't use it.
See, here we go. I'm not Steve. You're not going to get me. Steve's like a very nice person. This age-old argument of does butter need to be refrigerated? I'm not going
I'm
there.
not getting in it.
No, because folks are passionate.
I will say
My mom does both.
Kobe's funny because there is no person that we talk to that is more just 50-50.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I ride with like almost exactly half of the things Kobe says, and the other half I want to throw him out of a window.
Yeah. No, he's funny.
But it's like right down the middle. It's unbelievable.
So funny. Dude.
I don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Keep riding.
I'm not doing the whole butter in the fridge thing.
Austin says,
I don't like butter enough, to be honest.
as a white who can't taste food, I am taking many notes.
Wait, what's wrong with his olfactory nerves?
I don't know. I'm just assuming that's, I was complaining about people with bad palates, so I think he was lumping himself in there. You don't like butter that much? I love butter.
So I had to learn on this new journey I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
I buy a lot of butter.
Yeah.
I used to be all the way out.
Really?
I mean, dry.
Dude, butter's great.
I was the dry wheat toast guy.
Ugh.
Thought I was being no. You want it's the texture. Why you see? You got the Jason Williams face. He must have been watching Marquette St. John last night.
He must have been watching you eat dry wheat toast.
What's wrong with dry wheat toast?
I think he just said it out loud in the sentence there. Not good.
I'm not really vibing with you so far.
What'd I do?
I don't know. You not very sympathetic at all from my torn up armpit.
No, I was. I've done that before. I just think maybe you need to be a little less aggressive with the bar, with the.
Always a teachable moment with you, isn't it?
Well, listen, I learned from you. I learned from the best. Always teachable moments.
It's not true. It's not true.
I'm just trying to emulate your
Speaking of which, do you
style.
like my guys today?
I do. We got Caleb today. I like that. And then we got Phil Snow.
Yep. I was talking teachable moments, man.
Although we need to we should see if our guy can like Photoshop a Nebraska hat onto him.
Oh, Snow?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Terry can do anything.
That's what I'm saying. He seemed pretty capable with the head cutouts.
You see how quick he cranked out DBK?
Yeah. He had those things rolling.
Man, he doesn't play.
We might need to get a Photoshop here. I don't think the Panthers were his proudest days or his best days.
No, he's highly, highly respected.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know if you heard Coach Rule the other day. Hey, man, there's gonna be a lot of things I bounce off Phil, and I just leave it to him because I don't know if you know this, but I trust Phil.
That's good to know.
Coach, we ride.
That's good to know.
Are you surprised that you're here on time, having to watch that Marquette St. John game together?
No, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
I wanted to say
I'm surprised I didn't
stop fouling.
I was saying I'm surprised I didn't get fouled by Marquette on the way over.
So for all the fouls called, 60, they could have called 90.
100. See, yes, that's accurate.
They could have called 90.
So I have very little sympathy because I know Marquette's not thrilled about the way that game was called.
Yeah.
I have no sympathy for Marquette, UConn, St. John's. Who else do I want to throw in there?
Oh, you're like my man Nebraska. Shane, what's his patented line? We do it to ourselves.
Yes.
No, I get it.
You teach that style of play.
Yeah.
You assume referees aren't going to call it.
Is that Nebraska ball, Mike?
That's not, but the first one was.
I miss Nebraska ball, Mike.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he always asks me where I'm at, and I tell him, and I don't know if he forgets.
That's okay.
It's a funny dude.
Yeah, I used to talk to him all the time.
And the Huskers
used to fight with him all the time.
Oh, because he would go at it from a Creighton, Nebraska?
Yeah, he would get mad at me for being a Creighton fan. I'm like, I grew up in Omaha. What do you want me to do?
Oh, somebody slapped me down the other day over the weekend.
For what?
And it was a drive-by, too. He was like, ha, ha, ha. Didn't figure you for a J-sker. I was like, dang. Welcome to 2013.
Apparently. I also just don't get it. Like, I don't know.
He just kept on moving.
Just keep on busting.
Just
busting right on by.
I didn't say anything. I don't think I said anything. I think I let it ride. I was probably third episode in American Primevals. Mad.
So you were disturbed by something else? You were just...
I just can't believe there was a great line in this movie. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it.
I'm never going to watch it.
Never?
No.
So
you told me to watch it, and then you're like, it was terrible. And then you're like, why aren't you going to watch it?
Yeah, I'm torn.
Because I was like...
I wouldn't. So, full disclosure.
Like yesterday, you were like, I can't believe I watched it.
Man, it was like a train wreck. I was like, ooh, don't hit the car. Ooh, get out of the way. Ooh, I want to see what happens. And I blew through the 5. Like in Champagne, in Champagne.
The pain. We call it the pain.
And who's we?
Me and Evan, basically. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. There was a great line in there, though. Spoiler alert. Young lady by the name of Abish. Okay. She was part of the Mormon contingency, but she got taken by the Native Americans and was kind of in limbo. Let's just put it like that. So she's talking to the chief, but she's also talking about Brigham Young. And she says, the Mormons kill in the name of our God as well. And Red Feather replied back, hey, we kill, our God tells us the same. And Abish looked at him and she goes, maybe God's playing both of you. And I just was thinking to myself, all the people that have been killed in the name of crusades?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
Good number.
Yeah, millions.
Yeah.
So I kind of rested on that line.
That's
way back in episode 3.
One good line probably does not justify an entire series,
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Queen warned me. Kirkman pushed me. Queen warned me. I'm Team Queen on this one.
It's not that good.
He's like, DB, don't do it. TK was like, nah, I think it's pretty good. It's like, DB, don't do it. And the good devil, the angel.
Yeah.
Queen's usually the devil. So I rode with him.
So you're like,
I should have rode with JQ.
I don't know.
But yeah, I think they did. I do think they did just call another foul. It was annoying to watch. But the quad box was on point last night.
Yeah, it was a good quad box last night.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about that. I was mad when St. John's Marquette turned into a Georgetown game right after.
Hey.
Didn't love that.
Georgetown, not good.
Yeah, no, pretty bad at basketball.
Not good.
Pretty bad at basketball.
Although Xavier may be better than we thought.
Xavier's okay. I don't think Xavier's bad. I think they're okay. I don't think they're I don't know. I think that was a more Georgetown deal.
Hey, and depending on when you got in, man, my plays were dicey.
Yeah, they were right on the line.
Yeah.
Right? Because what was it? The Michigan State.
When I told you,
yes,
it was 3.
Yep.
I believe it closed at 2 or 2.5.
I saw it closed at 2.5.
Okay. So they snuck in.
So you would have got that one.
ASU was the money line. That was 71-70. That's a loser.
Yep.
Northwestern was either a push or a win.
Yeah, depending on where you got it.
Yeah. Not bad.
No, it's not bad. 1-1-1.
Yeah. And are we conveniently like Mick Crone? And I saw Goodman and Doster and those guys going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think young Jacob sent it to us, didn't he?
Yes.
Jacobs?
I think so.
Are we conveniently forgetting that they lost 3 in a row after he said what he said? Before they won?
Took a minute to write the ship.
It's a joke.
It took a minute to write the ship.
I win.
You Google me. Oh, that's a different guy. That's a different guy.
He'll be back too this year.
The hungry dog gets the bone.
Yeah. Illinois top 15. I think Indiana could be top 25. Certainly not basketball.
No.
OMG.
Good Lord.
How are you down 20 in 7 minutes?
It's hard to do.
Even Nebraska cut the lead against Wisconsin, and they were in Wisconsin came out on a heater.
Yeah. Because that was, 19-2?
Yeah.
Before they started getting in gear a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to do. It's hard to be down 20 in 7 minutes.
Their personnel, their players are better than that.
Yes, they are. They are. I would argue their players are pretty good. Like, not great, but pretty good.
He struggles, I think, with lineup combinations.
Yes. Yeah, he does.
They can't go big because they can't they can't defend.
They can't get stopped. No.
It is, by the way.
Poorly coached ball club.
We finally got rid of, in all our splendid glory of texting at 12 at night.
Yeah.
You guys, I am cheering that I'm off the hook for having to cheer for Hood Schifino. They got his ass up on out of there.
Did you hear that they kept Danny Ainge in the dark about his part of the trade until about 30 minutes out?
How'd you like to be Danny?
Oh, I'd be furious.
Right. Oh, yeah.
I would be furious.
See, there's a lot of shady stuff.
Yeah, so here's where I've landed. And I know that this is not a big NBA show, but just enjoy the drama of it, right? Nico sucks. Like, as a dude, he sucks.
Seems like it.
And I think he's dumb also, which is a tough combination, right? Because It genuinely seems like he looked at AD and looked at Luka and goes, I want AD. I think AD's worth Luka, just straight up. Because here's what happened. Apparently,
do you believe Pelinka?
I believe that the original trade offer included Connect and another first. Mm-hmm. And Pelinka talked him down.
And he waited him out. Yeah.
He talked him down because it started 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. He waited him out.
So this moron, Nico, went to Rob Pelinka being like, hey, I have a top 3 player in the league. I'd like to get rid of him because for some reason, think AD helps me win more. Okay, yeah. Whatever. Even if you believe that to be true, even if you believe that you need to get rid of Luka, the process in which he went about it was terrible. And then he let himself get talked down into thinking Luka wasn't worth.
How many calls did he's like, he didn't maybe say the number, but he was like, well, we just couldn't arrive at what I wanted to do. So he just stayed with it.
Like, Pelinka goes, yeah, there was a bunch of times where there seemed like there was obstacles we weren't able to overcome. And I was like, what?
Just kept clearing one obstacle at a time.
And I was like, what? Nico sobered up? Like, what obstacles? What obstacles for you, Rob? Because if somebody calls you and says, hey, I've got Luka, I'd like to trade him, you say, okay, what would you like? Yeah. You take the order, right? I don't understand. Like, Nico must be and listen, we have evidence of this guy being bad at his job.
Pretty good, too, though. Those guys were in the finals with a decent roster.
No, listen, I'm not talking about this job.
Okay.
I'm talking about his job at Nike.
Yeah.
Where he bleeped the bed with Steph Curry.
So, listen, that's where I got the whole.
That's the same guy.
That's the only reason I'm familiar with him.
And listen, here's the thing.
The first deal when it was going to come down to Nike and Adidas for Kobe was like $48 million short.
Yeah. I don't think this dude's good at his job.
I'm like, okay, I can see a couple $100.
I can see like up to 10. But to be
even if you're dealing in the 200 millions, 48's a lot.
That's 25%.
Yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot to be off the mark.
Like, if somebody missed your salary by 25%, you think you'd be cool? No, I would not. I'd have some issues. Have some problems.
We have those anyway.
We'll set up the show, let you know who's coming up, and talk more
and
next.
Potato salad.
No, get out of here. Hurrdat Sports Radio.
And raisins.
We're back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Pillar Exterior Stage, reminding you to fasten that seatbelt. It prevents injuries and saves lives, but only when worn properly. This message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Okay, DB. Again, I know this is not a huge NBA show, but I do want to talk about a conspiracy theory.
No.
I know you can't.
No.
Why not?
Because it's too far. So is that called deep state? What is it when something is, and I like a good conspiracy, but what is it when something's so off the grid?
I don't know, man. I'm just saying.
Am I using, what is deep? Do I need to Google?
Deep state is what people think there's like the secret ring of government controlling everything, like below the.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of some deep state kind of stuff.
Kind of, not really.
This is. You can't leverage lawmakers into a casino. It didn't work here.
I mean, yeah.
They gave you some variations of it, but it didn't work here.
There's a Warren Casino in Lincoln and Omaha.
That's fine.
Well, I smell bad.
He spoke at the funeral yesterday. He was sharp.
Who's that?
Coach Osborne.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. The pastor deferred to him, too. It was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a joke about being the third or fourth most important person to the congregation. It was it's the only time I think anybody laughed, but it was funny.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear he's doing well. Doing okay.
Doing okay.
I know there's been some concerns.
Yeah, slowed way down.
Yeah.
Way down.
Coming up on the show today, we got Martin Frank covering the Eagles and the NFL for the Delaware News Journal. Brian Christopherson, that's at 7:43. Brian Christopherson, 8 o'clock from Husker 24/7, and Kevin Sjuts at 8:30 from 1011 News in Lincoln. There's a lot going on out here, DB.
Yeah, I know. It is. It is. Whether it's basketball, the news on Terrance and
I was going to say
and Canelo.
That came out after the show Monday.
So, I mean, if they're thinking they can get $70K at Allegiant, you certainly could get $70K at Memorial. It doesn't have to be Canelo.
I was going to say, yes, to both of that. You could definitely get $70K at Memorial Stadium. It's definitely not going to be Canelo at Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way Canelo agrees to that, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason for him to.
I mean, maybe for $300 million.
I was going to say, Bud might have to do that one for free if he's trying to get Canelo to Memorial Stadium.
Now, there are some potential.
But he could get a fight at Memorial Stadium, and it would do really well.
So what I would try to talk him into, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, is after you beat Canelo, just do one swan song at Memorial, and for the ages,
call it a day.
Call it a day.
Well,
because you're going to make a ton from Canelo.
Yes, 100%.
Maybe you give Errol, throw him a bone.
Why?
Because you can win, number one.
Sure.
And it would be a huge draw.
It would. Yeah.
Because you don't want Boots. You don't want Boots to make any money off of you.
No. Because it seems like there's genuine animosity with Ennis.
Well, he just talks crazy to him for a guy like
that needs him.
Terrance is a big respect the game guy.
Sure.
Like the hustle. And what people don't understand about TC is like he had to do it the hard way.
Yeah, because nobody wanted to give him a look.
He had to wait and so he's not just gonna be quick to
give handouts.
Oh, here, man.
Yeah,
make some money off.
Because nobody wanted to give him the shot.
Yeah,
it took him a long time to start getting big fights.
How much? So I'm Davis obviously has to get paid in this. Shane, maybe your guy can have some cash flow after he has this fight on September 13th, which by the way is my brother's birthday.
Yeah,
it's JB and Casey's birthday too.
I'm trying to figure out how to get us, but you've got a game that day.
I know, Houston Christian.
Yeah.
Believe me, I looked.
But I'm trying to figure out how to get us to Vegas.
Listen, I got enough problems with the schedule.
Yeah.
That Thursday night appears to be in play for high school.
Oof. That's rough.
Why?
Why is it in play?
Like, you want no gate?
Yeah. Like, don't do that. That's silly.
A team that's going to be on the heels of a top 25 preseason ranking opening up in KC.
On a Thursday night.
First of all, 35,000 people are going to be there. I'm probably low.
I was at minimum. Yeah.
Like, why?
Probably 50. I would guess there's 50,000 Nebraska fans in Kansas City. Nebraskans love going to Kansas City anyway.
Yeah.
They're just going to spend the whole weekend there.
I do feel like I have pretty good command of that place.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like that's going to be a terrible draw for high school if they play that night.
Yeah. I'm not going to panic yet.
Just talk them out of it,
Hey, I got zero.
No big deal.
There's stroke and there's no stroke. I'm team no stroke, baby.
We got to talk to Kirkman. What are we doing here? TK, what are we doing?
We got to talk to Eric. Like, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of guys in play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I need to talk to...
Got to talk to the big guy, too.
We need to talk to Nebraska about figuring something out on that Houston Christian game.
Oh, I know.
At least give me... If they did an 11 o'clock kick, we could get there.
It will be early, I think.
We could get there by... We'd have to hustle.
So if they could put...
Like Nipsey, but we could get there.
I wonder if I could leverage wants and needs for a plane. Think I could negotiate that deal? How bad do you... How about a plane?
Let's do it. How bad do you want me to do this game, guys?
It wouldn't be that. They'd laugh. There's something else I'd be holding up my sleeve. Playfly would be like, "Hey man, go on somewhere. I ain't giving you doo-doo."
Just make sure that your handler gets to go too.
Well, I need somebody mean to negotiate the deal. Like, damn, DB, I thought you were cool. Here you are leveraging me now. That ain't your style.
No.
You said you're a terrible negotiator. Well, I am. That's why I got this guy. He's a jerk.
I was like, he's mean-spirited.
Get him, jerk.
But yeah, no, I'm excited. The Crawford Canelo fight hasn't been signed yet, but it appears.
I know.
It appears all parties have agreed.
So you just start extrapolating doll hairs.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. This is gonna be like not that Terrance is doing poorly now, but this is gonna be the one that kind of sets him up.
I mean, two of the top 6 pound for pound.
Yeah. Depending on where you look, top 4 to 6, where
I mean,
Canelo.
people are iffy on Canelo in some spots.
Yeah. But the interesting to me is Crawford at that weight.
He'll be fine.
I know. We haven't.
He will.
Yes.
Now the thing is facing somebody else at that size.
Yes.
Terrance will look good.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm not worried about him.
He will look good. He could easily walk around. You may see him. Well, he's not. He could easily be 178.
I was gonna say
in the streets.
People have told me, I don't know how accurate it is.
I'm telling you,
probably walks around about 170, 175.
Yeah, he can go anywhere.
So
he's never too far.
But Canelo's a big guy.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like Canelo probably walks around 185.
And Canelo's not taking no rehydrate clause.
Yeah, that's the report, is that there's no rehydration clause, there's no catch weight. Like, this is a straight up super middle fight.
So
at 168, which is
Canelo could come in pretty big.
I mean, theoretically,
he could be 180.
You're talking about like 180. He probably walks around 185, 190.
I don't know.
He's a big guy.
And sometimes he looks different. Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes he looks a little bigger. Sometimes he looks a little more.
Who wishes they probably wouldn't have ran their mouth is Benavidez.
Yeah.
Benavidez was like chirping at Canelo for like 75 mil, and Canelo's like, who do you think you are?
I don't need you.
I'm the biggest draw in boxing.
Yeah, by far.
So it's like.
I also appreciate one thing I really appreciate about Canelo is that dude fights a lot.
Yeah. He's gonna take a tune.
He's got like a May, like April or May.
He's got a mandatory.
Yeah, that dude fights a. I mean, what
Terrance has got to decide is, will he take a warm up?
Yeah,
and I would personally, but I'm not the one putting my face in danger.
Yeah, I also wonder, because what would the warm up be, like somewhere on the way up to 168?
He likes to stay sharp, so I don't know.
Like that,
I don't know.
That's
50. I don't know. It's north of 54, probably.
Yeah, that's the thing I would wonder, though, is if you do a warm-up fight, what does that look like for Crawford? Do you want people to see you at 168 before you go and fight Canelo? That's the big thing to me.
In boxing terms, this came up relatively quick. It was rumored for a couple months. I understand.
Yeah.
Well aware.
But nothing
to actually kind of get to this point, for boxing terms, is pretty fast.
Well, you have two guys that actually like fighting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's why it happens fast. And Crawford famously no longer tied to certain organizations that don't like making mega fights.
Yeah.
And so which is why he did it.
Now, Amazing Daniel, it's the first thing I've disagreed with in a long time that he said.
What'd he say?
He thinks it's a lose-lose. It's kind of a no-win proposition for Canelo, in my opinion.
Maybe.
I don't really think Terrance can lose.
Well, here's the thing about Canelo.
He could lose he likes that goose egg.
Yes, he could lose the perfect record.
But I don't know about.
But it always goes, that one came at 168, whatever.
People be willing to overlook it.
And the one place it's not going to be a lose for Canelo, is that money.
Yeah, and I've never liked Canelo, so I'm going to have to maybe warm up to him.
Yeah.
I've never liked Alvarez.
I like that he's willing to go get a fight.
Man, he's not afraid now.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Martin Frank about the Super Bowl and those Philadelphia Eagles here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We are joined now by Martin Frank. He covers the Eagles and the NFL for the Delaware News Journal. Martin, how are you this morning?
I'm doing pretty well. How about you?
Good. Martin, we really appreciate your time. We're stuck. I say stuck. I'm really not. Dab smack in the middle of practically all of Chiefs Kingdom. I sometimes think people forget that there's another team playing. But on the heels of listening to Sirianni, and we joked here locally all season, diehard NFL guys always have these long segments. How did a guy who we wondered after every win, was he going to be fired, has his team in the Super Bowl playing as hard as they do rallying?
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable. It's a remarkable story because I remember after week 4, they had their bye week. They just got creamed by Tampa Bay. And then they have a week off, and they come back, and they barely beat the Browns. And fans were booing. They were chanting, fire Nick. Fire
He's
Nick.
arguing with fans. This was classic.
Yeah, and then as soon as that game ended, he turned around at some fans who were taunting him all game and started yelling at them. And people thought he was going to get fired coming out of that bye week after week 4, and here he is. They've gone 15-1 ever since, and I think it just shows how much the players respect him, and because they could have easily, that week 4 game against Tampa Bay was pretty much as ugly as it gets. They lost 33-16, and it wasn't even that close. And, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown were injured. Lane Johnson didn't play that day. And they could have easily, thrown in the towel at that point, because there were a lot of questions even coming into that season if Sirianni would survive, because there was, apparently a rocky relationship with Jalen Hurts, and he turned it around, and he deserves credit for that. I mean, the players kept believing in him, and, the system ended up working, and here they are.
So, Martin, I'm glad you brought up that kind of rocky relationship, right? Because I've wondered all year whether or not what the reality of that situation was versus what was talking head show just needing things to talk about. Because for a team that allegedly had a lot of locker room issues, they seem pretty cool now.
Well, even 3 weeks ago, Hurts, it didn't sound like ringing endorsements.
So, how much of that's real?
Well, I mean, it definitely was something at the end of last year. I mean, the way the season ended, they started out 10-1, and then they lost 6 of their last 7 games, including getting creamed again by Tampa Bay in the playoffs. And, there are a lot of questions right then and there. If Sirianni would return, Jalen Hurts didn't exactly give him a ringing endorsement after the season ended. And, Sirianni had to fire his coordinators, offensive and defensive, and they ended up hiring Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And, there were questions what the Hurts-Sirianni relationship was. And I think Sirianni going from running the offense like he did his first 3 years to being more of a CEO coach, Hurts dealt a lot more with Kellen Moore and, with collaboration from Sirianni, of course. And it just kind of worked. I mean, it took a little while at the beginning of the season, but once they got their footing, I mean, it's worked pretty well. So, that's one of Sirianni's strengths. He's kind of like a people person. He talks, I heard the clip you guys were playing. He's his real self. I mean, sometimes he gets in fans' faces, sometimes he gets in other coaches' faces, but, I think the players appreciate that. He's not a phony. I mean, what you see is what you get with him, and it worked this year. I mean, they turned it around. They've been, like I said, they've been 15-1 since their bye, and here they are in the Super Bowl.
So it always seems like, this is like the tale of the two quarterbacks, right? Mahomes, hey, in you we trust, the GOAT. If it comes down to it, I'll take Mahomes. Hurts is the consummate but guy. He wins a ton of games. He's taken pretty good care of the football outside of 2023. The city loved him early on. Who is, in your opinion, Jalen Hurts for this franchise?
Yeah, that's a great question because nobody really seems to know. When the Eagles played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, Hurts had probably one of the best games for any quarterback in the Super Bowl. He threw for 304 yards, ran for 70 more. And, A.J. Brown set a record for receiving yards in the season. And, all of a sudden, this year, people are questioning whether the guy can throw. And the reality of the situation is the Eagles got Saquon Barkley, who ran for 2,000 yards. So, why would you throw if you don't have to?
Yeah.
But then, there was a game, they beat the Carolina Panthers 22-16 in early December, and Hurts threw for 108 yards. And after the game, A.J. Brown was kind of upset about that. And, he said the passing needs to improve, and that set off a week of shockwaves around Philly, basically. And then the next week, Hurts throws for 290 yards against the Steelers, and they crush them. And all of a sudden, all those questions.
Oh, yeah.
So, the thing about Hurts that, and I think Mahomes is a lot like this too, is they do whatever it takes to win. So, Hurts never really cares about his stats. So if he has to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley or run for do the zone read and run for 70 yards himself, as long as the Eagles win, he's fine with that. He doesn't care about throwing for 300 yards. He's not going to beat Joe Burrow. And the Eagles offense isn't built that way anyway. So, this is what's worked for them. And to Hurts' credit, he's adapted. And A.J. Brown has adapted too, and Devontae Smith to some extent as well. to what they have with Saquon Barkley, because he's obviously like the best running back in the NFL. So why would you not use him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, can a guy with Jalen Hurts' skill sets, right? When you get busy in the passing game, it's always a chunk play. When you on the ground, it's a chunk play. He runs the ball extremely well. Could a guy with his skill set ever get the "he's a winner" moniker? It always seems like it's the less explosive guys or eye-popping guys that get the he's a winner tag, but he wins a lot of games.
Yeah, he does. I mean, like Mahomes, you go back to 2 years ago when the Chiefs beat the Eagles, it was 38-35, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Mahomes only threw for like 180 yards, something like that. So, I mean, but who won the game? The Chiefs, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of like a similar thing with Hurts. I mean, he's had, if you go back, like ever since that bye week that I keep bringing up, I think Hurts has thrown for 250 yards just maybe 3 times out of those 16 games, but they're 15-1. So that should be your answer right there.
So, Martin, as we kind of look at this matchup, obviously the Chiefs come in with the three-peat on the table and all of this, but the Eagles, I think a lot of people think the Eagles, position by position or maybe even player by player at a lot of spots, are better. Are there any places where you look at Kansas City and obviously quarterback, but you look at their team and you go, this could be a problem for Philadelphia?
Well, I mean, Travis Kelce obviously would be a problem because he's so unique in how defenses cover him. The Eagles have been using a rookie at nickel and Cooper DeJean, who's played great ever since the Eagles put him in the lineup after that bye week.
Sensational draft pick.
Yeah, and but covering a guy like Travis Kelce is a big difference for him. And also, the linebackers. I mean, Zach Bond's got to keep an eye on him as well. They lost Nakobe Dean to a knee injury early in the playoffs, so the guy replacing him, Oren Burks, is a solid veteran, but he's not playing as well as Nakobe Dean did. So, there are areas that the Chiefs can exploit with that. And, obviously with Mahomes and Kelce knowing each other like the back of their hands, I mean, that's something they're going to try to take advantage of. So I think that's a key area for the Eagles to worry about, obviously Mahomes and Travis Kelce. And then, defense, they got to account for Chris Jones. As good as the Eagles' offensive line is, if they can't create holes for Barkley, I mean, all Barkley needs is a sliver, basically. But, they still have to create that. And, Chris Jones will be a big factor there as well. So, there are a couple areas that the Eagles have to worry about. But I think to your point, this Eagles team is better than the one 2 years ago that faced the Chiefs, in my opinion. I mean, they have a better overall defense. The offense, obviously, with Barkley is much better than it was 2 years ago, and they had Miles Sanders. So, it's going to be a great game. I'm really excited about it.
Martin, we appreciate your time. I know you've got stuff to get out and get doing as you're covering the Super Bowl, so we appreciate you joining us, and enjoy the game.
Thanks, Martin.
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
That is Martin Frank from the Delaware News Journal.
Bond might be one of the greatest stories going.
Yeah.
He was the NFL Butkus Award winner.
Yeah.
Just coming over from full-time special teams guy to starter, his impact. My man is athletic.
You had to throw the extra syllable in there? That's how athletic he is?
Listen, you look at him, he'll change the way you think of him. You're like, oh, he looks really what he looks like? I wouldn't have guessed. The other thing is he's talking about covering Kelce?
Yeah.
It's made up, right? Whether you're in cover 3, you're in 6, you're in
it doesn't matter.
Too deep. Like, they know.
Yeah.
Hey, if they're in shell, I'll be here. It doesn't matter where you think you're going, getting hooked to curl or to your drops.
Yeah.
That guy finds openings. He's a cheat code.
Because him and Mahomes, I just have some weird telekinetic thing. They don't even have to decide what play it is before they go. Code. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. Brian Christopherson coming up next. Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla here on Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're joined now by Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. What's up, BC?
Oh, I'm doing well. How are you guys?
B Sizzle. Okay. Let's start slow. It's kind of a fire hose. Slow. I want to go back to Saturday and Coach Rule talking because I had said some things a couple of weeks ago, and even a month ago, because I think it started with Brunts, and I asked you, I said, hey, who's the one player that you would use on the current roster as kind of the poster child for development? And everybody had all these good ideas, and I said, for me, I would take Dylan Raiola. And I kind of said some things about, you put the film study and the charisma and the natural leadership with like being in elite level shape, and the players see that, like there would be power in that. And I think some people thought I was saying that, that he didn't work hard or he wasn't this or he wasn't that. But that's not what I was saying. I was saying when you combine everything with him evolving and changing his body type and running the football, like that could do wonders for this team. Were you surprised that Coach Rule was so specific with the next phase of his maturity and growth like he was at the end of that presser on Saturday?
No, it's almost like you know some things sometimes. I'll give you that, Damon.
It's not true at all. I felt like so full disclosure, that's fair. Because it was eerie, because Ravi goes, he sounded just like you. And I go, I didn't realize he said it at first. But over the last week, I was like, dang, was I out of pocket in how I explained that? Like because I knew it may not have landed well with people if you only heard bits and pieces.
Yeah, if you only heard the clip.
But if you heard me like in its entirety, like I think it was fine. That's just me.
No, you made a good point then, and he made a good point Saturday. I think when you look at the roster, he's the most talked about player, and if the most talked about player every day is showing up with that fuel to get better at these specific things and know they have a long way to go before they've arrived, everybody else, I think, feeds off that. And that felt like the point he was making Saturday. I'm guessing sort of what you were getting at when you said that.
Well, I mean, he was at the Supernovas game. He's in the Tominaga T-shirt. Yeah. He's in the Chiefs locker room. Like, at some point, your guys want to see you grimy, too.
Yeah, and I like that he separated that. He wasn't saying he wasn't doing the second part, but that's the thing. Like, the bonus of Dylan Raiola is that he does like to be part of the community, and he does like to, represent Husker athletics and be at all the events. He's always like courtside for the basketball games, and I know he goes to a lot of other events as well. But I think Rule made the good point. You got to make sure then you're there at 8 a.m. that Saturday morning and you're front and center. And it wasn't a call out. He's saying that's what he's doing, but they all have to work together, and guys will follow that. And so his exact quote, I'm looking at it, I think when you see your best players, and Dylan is certainly one of our best players, when you see them paying the price every day, and then it trailed into another thought, but it's a big deal. And so he pointed out how last year with the wide receivers, maybe it was a deal where you got like five receivers there for a workout one day. How about getting all of them this year? Like, to set the bar higher than it was. And I think they thought he was a pretty good leader last season. But there's steps for him to go. And if he climbs that ladder, other guys are going to fall in line with that, I think.
I mean, just imagine if Dylan can scramble 3 or 4 times a game or slide and go into contact for a first down, given all the other attributes he has. I mean, that would be like magic. I don't think that's hyperbole, right?
No, it would be. And I think it would also help the passing game, too, when you have that threat. That sometimes both things play off each other well, but how often do games come down to, it's 3rd down and 6 and a QB on a busted or broken play or not as it's drawn up on the grease board goes and gets 10, and you move the chains and you continue and then you function more as you drew it up the rest of the way. So I think those plays will be critical. I think him being able to experience last year firsthand how necessary those plays are to winning, and I'm sure learning too from those cases where he took his share of tough critiques from people when he slid a yard short of the first down at USC. And then in the bowl game, it ended up working out pretty well because it was like it was supposed to be because Ramir got his 1,000 yards on the nose on that next play. But those are the plays you expect a quarterback going into year 2 to learn from, and some of those mistakes get erased the next season.
Yeah, I mean, BC, it does kind of feel like we forget because he's been sort of ever present in our lives that, like, this guy was a true freshman last year.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's a lot of those things that theoretically, like, you have to put the work in, obviously, but theoretically, a lot of those things improve just by no longer being a true freshman.
And he's got the double whammy too, BC, because he's the youngest and close to the best.
Yeah, and I would also say when to your first question, when we were talking about the second part about the work, that first part too, he handles incredibly well about just being Dylan Raiola in the state of Nebraska. I mean, not many people could do that as well as he does. Not many people who are my age in their 40s could function and not do silly things being in the spotlight like he is, and he always has a good way about him. I always see him down at PBA taking every picture when someone asks and sign autographs, and I think that stuff counts too. But the football part, it's just okay, we know he's dedicated and been dedicated to it since he could probably walk about learning the game, but it's that understanding that there's always there's more evolution you can have as a player, and understanding it, looking at the film with coaches, like this specific play, I could have done that differently. And I think he does have a mind, from what I've heard about him, that likes that. He's a football guy and he's a football grinder, and he's got to be that this offseason if Nebraska's going to be a great team, because he's going to be the straw that stirs the drink. And so hopefully he's setting that tone right now.
Yeah, BC, I sometimes think we get this idea in our head that being a hard worker is sort of a binary switch, right? Either you're the laziest person alive or you're Michael Jordan.
That's a good point.
Like a psychotic hard worker, right? And like there's a spectrum. And there's also, I brought this up a couple times, but it seems like he's an absolute just beast in the film room, like works incredibly hard at that part. But it's like, okay, are you working hard in that? Are you also working hard in like the weight room and your nutrition and your conditioning? And like, you could be a really good hard worker in one area and still need some improvement in other areas. And I think sometimes this narrative creeps up when somebody has any sort of suggestions for improvement that like, oh, he must not be a hard worker. It's like, no, there's levels to this though, right? Like the quote from The Last Dance where Roy Williams is talking to Michael Jordan, he goes, I'm working as hard as everybody else. And he's like, well, do you want to be like everybody else?
Yeah.
And so like I think sometimes we forget it's not either you are or you aren't. And a lot of times that progression goes along with regular maturity as well.
Yep. The greatest players don't ever think they work hard enough. I mean, there's always another level to it. And I thought you made a good point in your previous question, Ravi, just about we always have to remind too of him being a true freshman last year. And so whatever mistakes were made along the way as a player, it should have been expected in a lot of ways, like that there were going to be those road bumps. And I mean, just look at some of the young guys that have come through this program and tried to be a quarterback before. It's very difficult to get going, right away at that position. Like I like the guy they brought in out of the transfer portal, Marcos Davia. I like him a lot. He didn't play last year at Purdue. He was a guy who ripped it up down in the heart of Texas, down in Friday Night Lights country, all of his high school career, and won district titles and was a great player. And it took a year of him. He was on the sideline having to, learn things and kind of study the game from a distance without even playing and without having the benefit. Without having to deal with being out there in the spotlight like Raiola did. So Dylan Raiola was in rare company is the point to that, of just being front and center as a true freshman. There's a lot of guys who have been rated highly as recruits who do not play or take on the role that he did, or are under the microscope like he is, I think, even nationally. And I think some of that's because of the Mahomes comparisons and stuff like that. So people like to rib him when things don't go his way. But he seems to take that in stride, and I think that's good for him too. He got to deal with sort of their critiques that come with being a public figure, and when you fail, like, how do you deal with that last year? And so now you work through that in your second season. All that can be beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really good example just in Nico Yamaleva from Tennessee, right? That guy was as highly touted as anyone coming out. Didn't play all but a couple games as a true freshman, and at the very end, and then still sort of had a lot of the same struggles this year that Dylan Raiola had, right? Like there's even, Arch Manning is about as touted as anybody's ever been, and the guy still hasn't hardly played in 2 years, right? Like I think we forget how unique the situation was that Dylan was put in.
Yeah, we do forget it sometimes, and here's the benefit too. Like in December of, I guess it would have been 23, there was that week where we were talking about like, oh, what if like Kyle McCord, who obviously he had a pretty good year for himself, but what if he came here and Dylan waits behind the scenes? And we sort of saw that with Arch Manning. But now Nebraska has the benefit of the way it played out. You brought him in, he got that experience as a true freshman. And now I do think you will start to see the benefits of that in 25, that he didn't have to have that bridge season that I sometimes talk about as being so useful. It can be a help, but so can learning on the field and learning through your mistakes and everything that Dylan went through last season. And there was a lot of good stuff in there too. And I think, even though he had the one play where he slid down a yard short in the Pinstripe Bowl, on that same drive, there was a lot that went down. Like Nebraska was able to capitalize on finishing off a 4-minute drill, which they have not done really well in the past, and that's how they ended their season. There was a moment where he gets up and the late hit and guys come to his aid, and there was sort of that camaraderie moment between, with his teammates having his back against Boston College when things got feisty. So I think there was a lot of stuff, like even in the last 4 to 5 minutes of that bowl game in New York City, that was kind of a nice catapult into this season.
BC, it's interesting. Like I saw a stat my buddy sent me yesterday where 60% of the top 10 quarterbacks have transferred from between 21 and 23, which is staggering when we look at the pressure that we put on Dylan. The other thing was, and I thought it kind of flew under the radar when Coach Rule answered the question about Dylan. Remember in the fall, Coach Rule said, "Hey, this is big boy stuff. We're throwing it all at him. We're not babysitting this thing.
Yeah,
we're giving him the keys." Right? Then this in the spring it was, "Hey, in order to really make this his offense, he has to do this, and then he went through the laundry list." I thought that was interesting that he showed us that he has evaluated, made an assessment, wasn't really, not all the way there with it. So this is the next phase. Like he told us that he had evaluated it on the fly and this was the next phase, even after what he said last year. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, I do too. And I do think there's been good communication, it seems like, between QB and head coach, which matters a lot. I remember at points during this season, Rule would say how Raiola would give him, like, I think it was a list of 3 things, like he wanted to do better that week or something like that. It was like pretty fresh, like right after a game, they would have that discussion point about something that specifically that the quarterback wanted to work at that week and improving. And I just think that's a good relationship. That's very useful as you go through the off season. It's useful when you get to the grind of the season. It's useful during weird months like December when I'm sure people are trying to pull at your quarterback, that you have that sort of relationship. And I think that matters at the end of the day to loyalty and wanting to be in a particular program. So I was also struck by, in December, Dana Holgorsen, when he was asked about Dylan, just how impressed he was about how he knows answers that guys his age usually don't know when they're like in the film room. And I think we all agree that Dana Holgorsen is not someone who just says something to say something. So I when he says a compliment like that, we make a big deal, right?
They're hard. They are hard to come by for him. I would concur. He's tough.
I mean, when he says the receivers, when he first got here, like our perimeter blocking sucks, basically. We put that under the microscope and like, okay, this guy's blunt. So when a person is blunt like that and says sort of negative things that need to be fixed, when they say the positive, we also got, I think, shine a light on those. And so, I mean, his quote really stuck out to me. I've never been around a freshman quarterback that has those answers, is exactly what he said. He said he's been around freshmen that play at high level, but not to the point they understand some of the answers when, like, he's in the film room with Glenn Thomas and going through some of the specifics. So the brain and how he calculates things, like when they're watching it back, it's all there. And now it's like, okay, taking that next step when the lights are on, when it's that pass you got to make against Illinois, all that stuff, like this is what you're building for. But he's got the foundation. And that I mean, he's got it way more than most people.
I'm hoping to be able to get to basketball, but I got to ask you one more thing. This is kind of yesterday was kind of my outward apology. I didn't necessarily say, like, will you forgive me? But I was joking with Ravi about how I walked in to pick Zoe up on, what's today? Monday. And her daycare provider or the child care person at school, it's 4:00, and she's an older lady, and we don't talk a ton, but the first thing that she said to me when I picked Zoe up was, please tell me we're going to have a spring game. What is going on with the red and white spring game? And it caught me off guard, BC. Like, I'm probably sure I staggered or stumbled or hem-hawed through it or something. And I mumbled something, and I did something I never do. I actually went to go help my little girl get her stuff because it was letting me off the hook. So I came back to the show, and I'm like, to Robbie, and I said, I'm surprised that the spring game thing is a big deal. Like, it was the last thing that I paid attention to during the press conference because I trust that whatever they do in the meantime will be fine, right? And then we went in this back and forth, BC, but Ravi said something interesting where he said, I think we have to be careful here, though. Like, we don't want to be too dismissive of the people that butter your bread. I think there's a fine line between accommodating them and taking them for granted. So then I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, I see that perspective. Because at first I didn't, and I almost felt bad for not recognizing it.
Man, that's a good story, Damon, because I'm exactly that way about it sometimes, because I'll get people who will get all fired up about the spring game, and I'll quickly retort, it's like, well, they have other scrimmages behind closed doors that are way more important. Like that, I sort of go to that, like, well, and I do think I become a little bit hardened to, like, how great of an event it is that you are able to consistently draw 60,000 or whatever plus people, and it's a family event. It's an event where you can take your 5-year-old to the stadium, and it's a no stress deal too. Like, everybody loves game day when it counts, but there is something to be said for going into that stadium where you're not going to walk out angry. You're not going to leave after a loss. It's just going to be a good feeling day with your family where you're kind of a pretend game day. And so it is going to be tough. Like, I don't know what line you walk or how you make it something that's palatable to the fan base, while also protecting what you want to protect, which I think Matt Rule makes a very good point. I think most of this fan base understands it, actually, that we are in a weird era where people are trying to poach stuff left and right, and you don't want to open up the door even a crack to allow people to do that after all the work you've put in to try to build this roster. So I don't know what they're going to come up with exactly, but comments like the one you got there and some of the ones I hear sometimes, it should be on their mind that there is a loyal fan base that has loved this event for generations, and so you're going to have to come up with something.
I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be dismissive.
Well, I just, I think there's a pretty easy answer, right, BC? You have the game, you just don't televise it. Like, doesn't everybody win then? Like, you get the fans that want to go. You might even get more fans because you have people that can't watch it on TV. And then you don't have the national people trying to poach your players. Like, isn't that a win? Isn't that a pretty simple win?
I don't know if it's that easy with your media partner, but I'm sure.
Like, I'm sure they could work something out.
BTN wouldn't be like, Oh, we're mad at you.
Because if they're like, oh, if you have a spring game, you have to have it on TV, but you can just cancel your spring game and we're not worried about it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just, it seems like a simple answer to me.
I mean, it's something they'll have to weigh, and I know that the injuries part are a concern, and they had a couple last year. But like I said, there's other scrimmages, and I think they're going to go pretty hard this spring. I don't think, some people got into this whole conversation about, well, the 105, is that going to change how you practice? You still got to go be good at football and be physical. And so I don't know exactly how they're going to navigate this. And I understand, too, I think we should give a little bit of grace period here and see what they come up with.
For sure.
Matt Rule, for good reason, up until that press conference Saturday, has had his mind probably on basically everything else but that. Like as far as your roster, and you're trying to get the right coaching staff in place. And so I do have trust they're going to come up with something that's interesting to the fan base. You make a good point, Ravi, about what they could do, but it is a big deal to a lot of people. And I've been part of the crew that sometimes dismisses how significant it is, even though I grew up in this state. And so it's good to always remember that.
My mind's telling me no, but my body. No, I'm sorry. My bad.
No, that was good. Thank you.
Damn it. BC, I forget this whole live radio thing sometimes. All right, that's enough. Stop it. BC, real quick. And you got to help me here. You're Mr. Rational. Why do I feel like every Nebraska basketball game is must win? Like, I feel like tonight is I think they have to win this game.
Oh, they definitely have to win tonight.
And it's like
they 100% have to win
we
tonight.
said that 2 weeks ago, and it wasn't true. Like, is it true this time?
It's close to true. I mean,
Thank you.
I didn't realize that. I didn't realize Ohio State would count as a quad one. I'd lost track of where they were.
So we need them to get their act together, though.
Yeah, and I don't trust that. I don't trust that. But tonight, yeah, I do think Nebraska went out west knowing that what you're saying, that mission, like, got to go get two. And there was probably a lot of people skeptical they could get done what they did Sunday. And, I just love their mindset throughout that game. We know their flaws as a team. We've been over those on the radio the last few weeks, but guys maximized their niche. They did well for the most part. Now, I think tonight, and they're going to need this in these games going forward, Seger's got to hit a couple more shots. I don't know that you can survive, going 4-23 from behind the arc. I know that's not this team's forte, but you got to hit a few more of those open looks. But if they can bring that same defensive energy and attack the glass like they did on Sunday, I think they'll win tonight. But it is a big game because you don't want – and I like that Hoiberg right away on the postgame. He said, big win. We can't go lose Wednesday. It throws away what we just got. So I think that's their mindset, and that's the way you got to be.
That's Brian Christopherson, Husker 24/7. BC, we appreciate it. As always, we'll talk to you next week.
Yeah, I always enjoy being on, guys. Thank you.
Got to get Washington. Washington sucks.
All right, I got to stop saying that.
You got to go get them. That's DB. I'm Ravi
Did
Lulla.
you like that rendition? That was
pretty good. I was impressed.
Go.
Kevin Sjuts coming up next here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Halfway through the show here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. Joining us now is Kevin Sjuts from 1011 News in Lincoln. What's going on, Kevin?
Good morning,
Kevin.
to both of you guys.
How are you?
We're doing okay. How are you guys doing? I'm trying to stay warm. It is cold outside.
So do you have any precip yet?
Yeah, a little bit. It's getting a little bit slippery out here, but nothing too bad quite yet, but it's coming.
I'm terrified of that. That's probably – and now you are talking to a guy that has asked other grown men for rides when it snows. It's a little embarrassing, but I have to be honest because there are people that listen to this show that have been the people that have picked me up. But I'm only actually really terrified of freezing because I have no control. Like that, I can deal with just about everything else, but this is the type of weather that will get me to go back home and close the blinds.
Well, you can't see the black ice, right? That's what they say. You just got to trust that everybody around you is being cautious.
Not
too.
a chance.
That's the bigger concern, when you're driving in this stuff. So, DB, it's better if you just stay off the roads. If you don't have confidence, you shouldn't be driving in this stuff,
Hey, listen, you don't have to tell me. I'll go home and not leave. I got no problems.
I'll say twist his arm to be a hermit. Yeah, that's gonna.
Kev, let me ask you. I got to start real quick before I get to Nebraska basketball tonight. The Hack tournament and Mr. Houston, who used to play in our organization forever. I've seen him since he was knee-high to a grasshopper. If you had to stop the season today, are you taking Northeast or North Star, or neither?
I'm taking Northeast right now. Recent body of work, really impressive. Houston, as you mentioned, that guy is a bucket.
Oh, yeah. And he enjoys giving it to you, too. He's competitive.
Oh, without question. Man, he could score at so many different levels, too. His mid-range game is really, really good. It's underrated. But he can shoot the three. He can take it to the rim. He plays with a ton of confidence. What they did is in the Hack and then leading up to the Hack, that's my team right now. The city's been wild here in Lincoln this year. If you remove the Hack tournament, it is down to a three-way tie between Lincoln Southeast, Lincoln North Star, and Lincoln Northeast. But I think the unspoken city champion is Northeast because they won the conference tournament. That's a huge conference. It's at a pretty high level this year, and I've been very impressed with what Lazarick Houston and his supporting cast. It's not just him either. Correct. They had one of his teammates, Tenniper, hit 8 threes in a game in that tournament, so they're playing at a really high clip right now.
Kevin, as we switch over to Nebraska basketball, obviously on the road tonight, but they got a big one in Lincoln last week against Illinois. Seems like they've righted the ship a little bit. DB was asking this earlier, but why does every game feel like a must-win now? Is it just because it is, or are we being a little dramatic?
Well, we were not being dramatic a week ago because it was really the season was at a crossroads, and you had a huge opportunity to get everything pointed back in the right direction because you had the opponents on the schedule you did. You had a ranked Illinois team and then a ranked Oregon team, which Oregon no longer ranked, and Illinois slipped way down. But the bottom line is Nebraska got those 2 wins. It's harder to steer the ship back in the correct direction if you're playing teams at the bottom of the Big Ten. So that's why those 2 games last week were so uber important for Fred Hoiberg and his team. And now you look at what's left ahead. Nebraska's got a little wind back in the sails. And of the 9 games, I believe all but 2 are against teams with a losing record in the conference. So there is plenty of potential. And with the momentum Nebraska has right now, given what happened last week, that's why we feel like this game is a pretty big one, because you don't want to just go stub your toe after you just had the week you did.
So, Kevin, let me ask you something, because you've watched this a long time, and we talk about dramatic versus not dramatic. It seems like every 3 weeks, it's like, well, there's this indictment of Coach Hoiberg. He's, when it was 12-2, he was this, and we go back to the 2023 record and the 71 win percentage, and then the struggles after that. It's like, man, are we sure this guy can coach? Like, I get part of that is fandom, but I think Nebraska basketball fans are different just because they're probably the most committed without tangible results. When should we just move on and think, you know what, in Coach Hoiberg, I think I trust?
I think it should happen now.
Yeah.
And,
it feels like that.
I personally get pretty tired of the conversation. The referendum on Fred Hoiberg after a couple of bad losses or after a 6-game losing streak, like, the man just took you to the NCAA tournament last year, which doesn't happen every year. And this team has NCAA tournament potential. I think that's where everybody gets caught up so much in the moment. And you kind of lose perspective. It's because some of the things that were said before this season, that the goal was to not only make it back to the tournament, but win a tournament game for the first time in program history. So that expectation was set. But what's he supposed to say? Yeah, we're going to try to match what we did last year. Well, that wouldn't satisfy anybody. So you kind of get caught up in this mental complex of like how to evaluate Coach Hoiberg and this team. It's almost like Will Bolt. Every year he wants to win or wants to host a regional. What's he supposed to just say, we want to make the regional? Well, that would be just matching what you did a year ago. These coaches want to always take it the next step and improve and go a little bit farther. So I don't know if that plays into the psyche of the fans with this situation, but I mean, what do you want, Fred? You want Barry Collier coaching this team again? You know, like, I'm not trying to shame Barry Collier, but you have Fred Hoiberg as a coach who is a good coach. The biggest challenge with Fred is just trying to make sure that he's getting his guys to maximize their talents and the game plan every single time out. And that's what was maybe missing in the 6-game slump. But it seems like if this team has confidence, and guys, I really believe for this squad, they just have to play from ahead. When they get behind and they're trailing by 6, 8, then if it gets double digits, I just feel like the psyche and the confidence teeters with this team. But when they're in the lead and they have a little bit of a groove and a little bit of swagger, that's when they're the most dangerous. And that starts and ends with Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams. I think those guys, when they are confident and they're rolling, they're really good.
Okay. All right, let's stay with Bryce and Juwan right there. Put these in level of importance for me. Rank these 3. Shot selection, defending the 3, taking care of the basketball. If Nebraska is going to play well, put those 3 things in order for me as you watch this particular team.
I'm going to say take care of the basketball is number 1 because turnovers win ball games, and no matter what sport you have, and you can't give possessions away. Then I'm going to say defend the 3 because when Nebraska gives up the 3, and some of these teams get on heaters against the Huskers, and I don't know why that's always against Nebraska, but that is that's where the confidence wavers. When you see a
Rutgers,
team,
I'm looking at you.
Right, and Iowa too. Late in that game, Iowa just got silly from beyond the arc. Just stem that tide. Don't let teams get on huge runs. And I think the huge opponent runs kind of correlate pretty strongly with being able to shoot the 3 against Nebraska. And then I'm going to say shot selection the 3rd, because even if you get off a poor shot, there is a chance Nebraska rebounds it well enough that you could potentially get a putback.
Yeah, the reason shot selection came up was twofold, so I may have put it higher. Does this make sense? Number 1, sometimes when they struggle with transition defense, it usually stems from a bad shot. The other one is if they're efficient with their shot selection, they look like a much better scoring team when we're not just shooting like ill-advised 3s.
Yeah.
You're not buying it. I get it.
No. I don't know that I fully subscribe to all of that.
He said,
too.
yeah.
You know, I get your point, but I don't know that I totally agree with that point.
Okay, fair.
I just think there's like I'd even go a little bit further and just say half-court sets. You know, like getting good looks in half-court sets are really important for this team.
Yeah.
When they're not running anything, I feel like they're just a little bit disjointed, and that's when, you know, things get a little bit wonky for the team. So getting back on defensive transition, you know, who does that at a really good rate? You know, like some teams don't, and they still win. It's okay. I really say, like, going back to your question, DB, I take care of the basketball, defend the 3. And then, you know, if you get good shots, you get good shots. But I think that this team rebounds the ball well enough. You know, and I'll throw the Illinois game out the window because Illinois is it's one of the best rebounding teams in the country. And I think some people still feel bad about the way that they gave us. Nebraska gave up, I don't know how many offensive rebounds. Are ridiculous. But that's a credit to Illinois, not, you know, an indictment on Nebraska.
That's Kevin Sjuts, 10-11 News in Lincoln. Kevin, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Kev.
See you, boys.
That is our friend Kevin Sjuts. I don't know if I'm riding with the shot selection. I don't know. Shot selection is pretty important.
It's an interesting discussion, especially for this team getting back in transition.
Let's get back to that when we come back here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, and brought to you by our friends at Centris Federal Credit Union. It might be time to break up with your current financial situation. And if it is that time, maybe start looking around at places like Centris Federal Credit Union. Go check out centrisfcu.org to see all they have to offer. Whether you just need checking and savings, if you're looking for car loan, mortgage, refinance, whatever it is, they've got a full range of services to help you out, and they've got experts to talk you through what you need. Federally insured, by NCUA and an equal housing lender. Make sure you go check out centrusfcu.org. DB, we were talking about, you asked a really interesting question to Kevin at the end there.
I'm glad you think so.
I thought it was a good question, you know?
Yeah,
Not like,
I don't know who the new guy is that said two halfway decent things, but
who, me?
yeah, about his partner.
I'm super nice to you. Usually not on air, but off air I'm usually pretty nice.
It's always the guys that are self-professing that aren't that.
A professing?
Yep. I think, is that a thing?
Yeah. Self-professing. It's like you're kind of talking yourself up a little bit.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah, I can give you a little vocab lesson if you'd like me to.
Wow.
No, you asked him a good question about what he would put in order of importance: taking care of the basketball, defending the three-point line, and shot selection.
It's funny. His first was probably was my last of the three.
Taking care of the basketball?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've shown the ability to overcome it, and then you have to get into live ball versus not live ball.
True, and like it's hard to say that, and that's not to say that it's not important, but out of those three,
yeah. And for this team, context matters.
I do think he really underestimated shot selection.
Yeah, because would you say that for Michigan?
Shot selection?
Turnovers.
Oh, no, that'd be important. That'd be real important.
They turn it over at a ridiculous amount.
Yes.
And
it hurts them.
They're 9-2 in the conference.
That's about the only way they lose, though.
It would be different with my three options.
Sure.
But Michigan has been able to.
They've overcome it.
I'll give you a better one.
Okay.
Right in your very own backyard, and they turn it over at a prolific clip.
What's that?
Where would you put that for Creighton?
What are my other options?
Shooting the three.
Okay. Turning it over.
And let's say for them, because this may be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It has been for them, but it may really be a thing, especially if you watched last night, offensive rebounding.
So I would put shooting the three first, probably.
Okay.
Because when this team shoots it well, everything else opens up.
You would put turnovers last for this team. They already turn it over.
So probably. I think it for me. So I sort of view giving up offensive rebounds a lot like I view turnovers. So those are pretty similar for me. Just because you're wasting a possession. Yeah, you're just wasting a possession, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And so I get it's more like a dead ball turnover in some situations, but so I have a hard time differentiating those two. But for the sake of the argument, yes, I probably put turnovers last because they've shown the ability to overcome it. For Nebraska, the shot selection is really important. I
think so too.
Because look at the guys that we talk about and look at how we've talked about them throughout the year, right?
Bryson Juwan.
Bryce. Well, not just
that's
those
why
guys.
when he said those two names, that's what prompted the question.
Because you know what, Juwan looks dramatically different when he's shooting 5 threes per game versus when he's shooting 1.
Yeah.
And it's not just he's not shooting threes. It's that it changes how he's playing.
And we want Bryce to hunt shots.
Yes, we need Bryce to hunt shots. But even with Bryce, I would rather have him get into his little midi game than to be settling for threes all the time.
It's funny. It only took 2 games for you to fall in love with his mid-range game.
Because it's good.
Go back and read Jacob's write-up.
I would never. No, I'm just kidding. Jacob does great work.
I'm telling you, I studied that Charlotte film.
And that's fine. That's totally fair. I didn't. I'm not going to pretend like I did.
Okay, that's fine.
But his
shame on you.
Mid-range game, he settles.
You were too busy doing your Fedor homework?
Yes, 100%. I was doing a lot of Fedor homework. You're like, ooh, this guy nice.
You thought Zukic was a candy bar, zip it.
A lot of what kind of homework?
I think that's Zugats. Or maybe that's Stugats. That's a different thing. But
it's nougat.
Oh, sorry.
Wait, is that what it is?
I have no idea.
That was incredible.
What happened? I
have no idea.
I have no idea. But I would say, even going from settling for a 3 for Bryce versus getting into a mid-range where or we've seen that with Raleigh too. Raleigh's a terrible 3-point shooter. He's pretty good from 18.
Yeah.
Don't ever shoot 7 threes in a game, Raleigh Wooster.
That's your boy.
You may.
Hey, Raleigh.
You may lose a Scully, Raleigh, if you're trying to shoot 7 threes in a game.
Are you trying to rhyme? Is this rhyme time?
Yes. Okay. I'm trying to be like your boy Drake.
Hey, I'm Team Drake.
Yeah, be careful.
Probably
that's on you.
Oh, listen. So, by the way, before we get to Commander
We're about
Cody,
6 months away from that aging, like you're saying you're a Diddy guy. All right.
So guess what?
What's up? What's up?
It's fine. The T-shirts that they were wearing at Neal Street Blues on the back, they not like us. But it wasn't for Kendrick.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't watch the Grammys, but of course it's on my algorithm. Kendrick's greatest statement that he made that night was wearing denim on denim. Do you know what denim on denim is in Canada? They call
it's Canadian tuxedo.
They call it a Canadian tuxedo.
That's funny. Yeah, because Drake's. Yeah, that's funny.
Nobody talks about that because they don't know.
That's funny.
That was. I'm like.
Yeah, the denim on denim's the Canadian tuxedo. That's funny.
I'm like, Kendrick stays petty.
He does.
Let's get to Commander Cody.
I appreciate that about him. Cody wants to talk a little wrestling and Geordie Ball, which are not the same thing. What's going on, Cody?
Hi, Commander Cody.
Well, that was going to be my first. Good morning, gentlemen. That was going to be my first question. Take away the Super Bowl. In order, what interests you the most this weekend? This really big duel Friday, the return of Geordie Ball Saturday, or the greatest golf tournament of the year known as the Waste Management Open?
Did you say the most inebriated golf tournament of the year?
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. For me, it's wrestling. 7 versus 3 or 6, depending on what poll you use. I think I was just kind of capping this thing. So there's 2 key matchups. Do you want them?
Yeah.
Van D and Antrell Taylor. If Nebraska can find a way to win both of those matches, I think they've got a chance because I don't know if they win once they get to 65.
What about Parco and Levette?
I like Ridge. I think Ridge wins.
Yeah. My whole thing is I think Nebraska probably has the better wrestlers. Nebraska needs to get over the mental aspect of the Tiger Hawk on the front of the singlet and Carver Hawkeye Arena.
So I didn't realize this. Iowa's run 9 in a row since 14.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like that many.
I know they're good, but they're only going to get better.
You don't say.
They're only going to get better with who they got yesterday.
Yeah. What do you think happens between Teamer and Taylor?
Well, that's if Teamer wrestles.
I think he is.
Because they pulled the red shirt on their freshman on Sunday.
I know.
So I'll be curious. I think it's too stylistic, like they're compatible because they're basically the same stylistically.
Well, you think Van D was an anomaly against Wisconsin? That did not look like him.
Being at that match, Flu is running rampant through that team. And you could tell with Kale and with Bandy and obviously with Caleb not wrestling, like those are not how Kale and Bandy normally look. And just look at them like sweating more than they normally do. Like their eyes hardly open. They had no explosion. You could tell that they were not themselves. And I'm not trying to make excuses. I've just seen Jacob Bandy wrestle a lot and Kale Laridson more than pretty much anyone on that team. Those are not them guys normally.
All right.
But I don't want the whole Geordie Ball thing to go to the wayside because we get to watch her on the MLB network on Saturday.
And the cool thing in Nebraska, if Nebraska, here's your hot softball take. If they can pick it, if they can find a way to play good enough defense, they've got that's gonna be a good softball team.
Yeah, you need to have this conversation with Sauter because we had this conversation Monday night.
He put Geordie 1.
Well, he did, but he said, "I'm going to give you a." Sauter goes, "Let me give you a hot take. Take Geordie Ball away from Nebraska, and Omaha might have the best roster of the 3 D1 teams."
Omaha's pretty good.
Yeah.
And
he said they got the Marion girl transferred back to Omaha too. The pitcher.
They may run through this.
I would imagine.
Yeah. Let me. I right off at first, anecdotally, I don't think he's crazy.
Cody, appreciate the call, bud.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have an in-depth knowledge of the talent levels. I know who's good and who's not, right? But I'm not going to sit here and do evals. Like that's not
One
part
of
my skill
the
set.
greatest joys of the New York trip was being with Matty Smith.
I do know that Omaha is a really, really good softball team.
And he's their softball SID.
Yeah.
It's fantastic conversation. And just listening to he and Jess.
It is kind of weird, though, in softball because we always compare them to baseball, right? Because it's a similar game. It is weird how much more a player matters in softball, like a Jordy Ball, than a player of that same quality would matter in baseball.
Hey, I got
that's not a hot take, right?
Yep. And on his, I got to get this in real quick. I was thinking about this on the Shark because I want to get Coach Bolt or Nebraska before the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
Would you rather be a coach? Think about this heading into break. Would you rather have player options as a coach or have it well defined?
That's an interesting question.
I'm going to give you the pros and cons of both.
Because I think that applies to more than just baseball, softball.
Correct.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. A little more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, presented by Centris Federal Credit Union. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, reminding you to get over to supernovas.com to get your tickets for the Omaha Supernovas, their next home match coming up a week from Saturday on the 16th. That is their next visit to CHI Health Center. Make sure you get to supernovas.com and get those tickets today. DB.
Yes, sir.
You asked a question before we.
I did.
And it was an interesting question.
Well, this is on the heels of.
Look at you asking all these interesting questions today.
Knock it off. Knock it off. Somebody said. It's part of my Black People in Sports Day. That's every day, DB. God, I can't stand.
Did Bill Callahan say that? That's every day, DB.
That is so racist. Can't stand. And you get away with it too.
Because I'm ambiguously brown.
I'm offended. I fake cussed under my breath in the bathroom. This was on the heels of wanting to get Coach Bolt.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about, man, my man has options. He's got options in about 4 or 5 positions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, that's good. At least you can go situational or whatever. And then I was thinking, oh man, you better be communicating because as long as those guys know. And then I was like, well, fudge, if that was me, I don't know. Do I want LP or Clinton or Mont or do I want those? Do I want an option? I don't know. I don't know if I want an option. And I'm thinking about coaching.
Yeah.
Right. I had 3 guys at the time to start the season. I felt like we're ready for big time varsity games. Then I got a 4th.
Mm-hmm.
And then as the season went on, I was like, oh man, I have to really communicate with these guys in practice to make sure that they know their roles because they're all capable.
Yeah.
Like more than capable. And then I was like, well, it'd be nicer if it was a little more well-defined. Then I could make a decision situationally. So do you like options?
So there's
Coach Mack had options at the 4.
Yeah. Yeah, he does
several.
He does have several. Still has several options.
Right? Is that a good thing?
Yes and no. It's not an easy answer, right?
Oh, you Lego my ego?
It's flip-flopping.
Just a waffle.
No, but it's not an easy answer, right? Because not all options are created equal, as you know. Like, there's good options and there's bad options. Theoretically, you would love to have clearly defined roles with competent people, right? Like, that's the best case scenario.
Super myopic.
Right, but I mean, like, if we're doing this, that's the best case scenario, is to have clearly defined roles with competent people. That's generally not a luxury you're afforded, though. If I have to choose between defined roles and options, I need to know if we're doing good options or bad options, right? Because you had good options. You had 4 people you thought were competent.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it was Warren and Quentin and then 3 really good ones.
Yeah, so you actually sort of had close to a myopic situation.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, I've got clearly defined roles because you knew Quentin was the one, right?
Although when I played my 2 smaller guys, you know, who were better in coverage, I was like, I know we're going to be giving up something in the run game. So then I wanted one to be better at it than the other, but they were about the same.
Yeah.
So even within it, it's still a little bit of a
clearly define itself as
well.
much
Sometimes they'd say, "Hey, do you want me to play the anchor or the the Bandit, and I was like, you guys decide who's more comfortable, right? Sometimes I would say that.
So if you put my feet to the fire, I'm probably taking clearly defined roles.
Really?
Yeah, if you put my feet to the fire. Because if I know what guys are good at and what they're bad at, I can put them in positions to be successful.
Okay, so I think all but football probably, I would put football last of the three major sports.
Okay.
Because I get it at the end of the day, football physics is physics, and sometimes you can isolate matchups.
Sure.
Much harder in that sport, in my opinion.
Okay.
Basketball, situationally, though, I would love to have a couple of different things to play matchups.
Sure.
As what I in baseball. If I wanted a lefty on a left, if I wanted defense, we heard Bruns talk about winning the job in right field may come down to it's like.
So when I say clearly defined roles, I'm not saying like this guy's competent, this guy's incompetent. I'm saying, okay, I know what these guys are good at.
Do you think we look at having
and
options?
maybe that's what some people call options. I don't know.
Let's say in the secondary or wide receiver.
Yeah.
Do you think having options means you don't have the guys?
I can. I mean, it certainly can. Because I'd love to have like a guy and then options. Right?
Ideally, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
I'm with you. Yeah.
Like I'd love to
100%.
I'd love to have, if I know, like Coach Mack, for instance, right? At the 4, he's got options, doesn't really have a guy. At the 2 or 3, the wing position, whatever you want to call Jemiah Neal, he's got a guy, and then he's got a couple options, right? He can throw Fedor Zugic in there. He can play Mason at some 3. He's got a guy in Jemiah Neal who's kind of taken that job, and then he's got a few options, right? At point guard, you've got a guy, but then you have no options, right? You've got Stephen Ashworth, and then nobody else you feel that good about. I know they like Ty Davis long-term. He's not really where he needs to be a super contributor this year, right? And then you've got Shane Thomas, who you probably would prefer not to have to play significant conference minutes, right? So you've got Stephen Ashworth, you've got your guy, that's your defined role, but then no options. Ryan Kalkbrenner, you've got your guy, and then not great options. I know Frederick King can give you a couple good minutes here and there, but you don't want to have to play Frederick King 10 minutes a game. You don't. So, like, you can have it both in the same roster, too.
Yeah. So DJ, David brings up, this is like the 4th time we've said this in 2 weeks. What do you think I'm going to say about what David did?
He had a good comment. He had a good question.
Brings up a good point.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing when I thought about, because this was a shower thing. This is when I was thinking about myself being in the situation with running backs. You better be, the part we're missing, you better have a pretty selfless team. Right?
Sure.
Your communication and the way that you have to coach having options. Because it's a lot easier, in my opinion, when
everybody knows who the guy is.
When it just reveals itself.
Yeah. Like the quarterback room was probably pretty easy last year at Nebraska, right? Everybody kind of knew, like, yeah, Dylan's the guy, and if something happens, we'll do our best. But, like, it was pretty clearly defined.
Right.
Like, that's not a lot of questions there, right? But wide receiver is a really good example. Running back's an even better example, I think. Was there anything real clearly defined in the running back room?
Not for a while.
Not until the last, 2 games of the season, basically?
Probably 4.
Whenever Dana came in.
Yeah.
Okay? But 2/3 of the season, you're like, we got a bunch of guys. And that's what I said about it. They're all just dudes. Like, they're all just kind of there, right? And then we see one emerge late. But did anybody feel great about the running back room in the first 8 games of the season?
Some felt better than
Right, but did anybody feel great?
No.
Nobody felt that good about it.
Like Tony the Tiger type stuff? Or
like Nate the Great?
I'll say no, just because I don't feel like
Carson over it?
Yeah.
But or wide receivers fine too. You got a lot of options. You don't feel that great about any individual person or the room in general. And then you've got some guys emerge late in the season. So it does, to me, also depend on whether or not you can play multiple guys at that position. Like quarterback, options are not good. You want to know who the guy is. Competition is good. Options aren't. And maybe that's the thing.
Fudge, you sound like another light-skinned guy I used to sit next to. God, we would argue about that all the time.
About which part?
And he will still, to this day, this very minute, will say, you want competition everywhere but at quarterback. And I don't know if I agree with that.
I know. I think you want competition everywhere. But competition is good. Options aren't at quarterback. Because you want to know who the guy is. you also want people in that room that push that guy to be better. That's a really tough line to walk. And
and it's not real. I mean, how many times are you going to see that?
Probably not a lot, but you're asking me what I'd prefer.
I mean, maybe Texas.
Texas? I mean,
but clearly yours was the guy.
Yeah, he was the guy, and he had a guy that was kind of pushing him.
Didn't appear to be.
You don't think there's anywhere that
I'm just looking at who played.
No, I'm not talking about who played. I'm talking about in the room when nobody's playing. Like when you're not playing. I'm talking Sunday through Friday. You're telling me there's not anything that can be like let's use Nebraska for example, right? Dylan's the guy. Right? We don't expect Marcos or TJ to push for that job this year, right? That would be stunning, I think, to most people. So you can't tell me, though, that there might not be a couple things that TJ and Marcos might be able to push Dylan on to make him a little better. Like, maybe TJ's a workout warrior. I don't know. Maybe he's just a freak about his conditioning and his working on his quickness and making sure his body's right. That could make Dylan better, being in a room with a guy like that. That's competition. But it doesn't mean Dylan's not clearly the guy. Like you can push guys in certain areas and have that be important.
What I want to be able to play, I should ask Shafe, because he had to deal with this with the Guardians.
Mm-hmm.
So he has like 5 corner outfielders.
Sure.
That they could play.
Yeah.
Right? 4. I don't know. Like, do I
I don't know. There could be bacon involved.
I guess situational is probably the best way to put it. I prefer that I'd have to know the situation. I just think we're pretty flippant and pretty casual when we say things like, well, at least they've got options.
That's what you tell yourself to feel better when you don't have a guy.
Well, not always.
I think so. A lot of times it's what people tell themselves to feel better.
No. I mean, if
what did I say last year? What's the thing I said last year about the secondary, about running backs, about wide receivers? Do you remember what I said?
Well, so you're talking about if you're not playing at a minimum level.
Sure, yeah.
Well, then you're just not good enough. I'm not really.
Well, that's why I said the competency matters. Like, are they good options or bad options? What did I say about those 3 groups last year, though? You have options, not answers.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember
that's what we're talking about, though. Like, having options is fine, but only if some of those options turn into answers. Like, you have options to the question. You can give me a multiple choice. You still have to get the answer right.
So the coach in me says yes, is yes, but only a little bit. Because do you know what? Sometimes you have to roll the dice to get your answer.
That's
and
fine.
A lot of times we're not willing to do that.
Well, so that was my gripe with Greg McDermott and Fedor.
Right? So I found Burke Brown could play in crunch time.
Yeah.
Because of what happened ahead of it where I had to play him. I mean, he was thrown into the fire. I'm down 2 outside linebackers. Hey, kid, you're up.
And all of a sudden you go, oh, wait, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, this dude can play.
Absolutely. I understand that 100%. Is sometimes you don't know the answer you have until your hand is forced.
And you have to be Levante David.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you because I think part of the key is and coaches know this, it's like what Coach Rule said about the quarterback spot. You don't really know
until you put
them out there. And you have to be willing to come with the criticism and the critiquing along the way.
I agree. I'm talking about everything up to that point, about the options versus having a guy. Because sometimes you have a returner and you know he's the guy already, right? But there's a lot of situations where you walk into that and you go, hey, because this was my argument, this was my gripe with Coach Mack and Fedor, was I felt like he was going with a bad answer over an unknown, not a bad answer, a lesser potential answer over an unknown option. I wanted him to roll the dice and see if the option was the answer.
Yeah. Kind of like me wanting Kel Jacobson to play more.
100%. Yeah, like I get that it's an unknown, but sometimes you don't know until they're out there. Like I look at a guy like Fedor and I'm like, okay, that guy's played 100 games of professional basketball at a high level. Let's see, right? Let's just see. Like that guy probably has something to bring to the table. And if he doesn't, then you figure it out. But you're probably not going to figure that out until you roll the dice, to your point.
Are you discerning between like let me ask it to you this way. Are options and a choice two different things?
What do you mean?
Is an option and a choice, are they different?
Just off the cuff, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'm looking at I'm trying to get inside.
But I need some context.
I'm trying to get inside what Ken said.
Okay.
T. Frazier and Brooke Behringer were options. Any running back in the early 90s was an option. So he's using option as a potential answer. So you've already fast forwarded and it's past just having a choice.
Well, so I would say a choice is better than an option. Because to me, from this context, right, let's use 90s Nebraska because we have context and history for it, right? So in that running back room, all your options had shown they could be answers, right? At that point, you just get to choose. You just get to choose, and most of your choices are pretty good answers.
So I don't. So to answer the question, I don't think they're the same thing.
Yeah. So in that context, no, they're not. An option is before you know. A choice is after. I think. So like Brooke and Tommy are a really good example.
If somebody said to you, "Hey, listen, you have the option to take the $1,000 or whatever. Go to a week's worth of dinners."
Sure.
Okay. That's an option for me.
Okay.
A choice could be, hey, listen, give me all your money or you lose a kiddo.
So that's not where I was thinking at all.
But you know what I mean? Like sometimes a choice.
So you look at a choice as like a negative.
I look at a choice as a definitive solution.
So here's
whether the outcome is good or bad.
So in that scenario,
an option is more trial and error.
Sure. So in that scenario,
that was a little dark,
a little dramatic. It's fine.
Wasn't pretty.
But so here's
zip it, Bo.
Using a less dramatic version of your example, I would say, okay, an option would be, hey, I'll give you $1,000, or I'll let you
like to play Andre Ethier or Yasiel Puig. Did not appear to be a choice. It was like an option.
So I would say an option is, okay, you get $1,000 or a week's worth of dinners. A choice would be you get a week's worth of dinners here or you get a week's worth of dinners there. That's a choice. Those are defined. Because you don't really know the value of the dinner versus the $1,000, right? Because you don't know if you're going to like Mahogany v. Mertz for all those dinners or if you're going to Burger King.
Well, I know one thing. If you have 20 defensive backs or 16 wide receivers or whatever the number is, or 20 or 8 offensive linemen, right? Or Sledge versus Moving Evans or whatever. You better get some play. You better graduate somewhere between having viable options and actually having a choice.
Yeah. Like I would say the difference right now, options was Jeff Sims versus Heinrich Haarberg. You didn't really know what either one of those guys was going to be until you put him out there, right? A choice is Brooke Behringer versus Tommy Frazier.
What about juggling starting lineups like Coach Hoiberg's done?
Yeah, I think he's at options right now because he's not getting a lot of answers.
But he is, though.
Well,
you're still 0 since the tinkering.
Well, no, but he
although you've
back.
done it twice. He did do it twice.
So like, it's not really an answer. Like, because he won at Illinois with one lineup, and then he won at Oregon with a different lineup, putting Burke back in the starting lineup. So like, he's still looking at options. I don't think he's got answers yet.
No, but at that point it became a choice because he still got the desired outcome.
So
do you think he has to do it more?
Yes, that's too small of a sample size to say that one correlated.
I'll ride with that.
I don't think we're at the point where we can look at results.
I'll ride with that.
Like long term, I can look at Brooke Behringer and say, hey, he won a whole regular season.
Yeah.
Right at quarterback. Tommy Frazier, we know what he was capable at quarterback. He won 93. Behringer won 94. Who do we play in 95? Right? That's a choice.
Oh, I kind of like this one from my man B2.
What's that?
An option is deciding who to ask on a date. A choice is who you propose to.
Sure.
I kind of like that.
Because you have a lot more information by the time you make the choice.
See, that's a veteran.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can ride with that.
There's 2 choices I've made in my life.
I can ride with that.
One I would make again, one I would not.
I was probably asking because I'm just thinking starting this baseball season, which is where I was going, some of this early could be a headache if you haven't communicated the desired outcome.
Well, yeah. It's also a headache if your options aren't giving you answers yet.
Hey, now you watch. This is inevitably going to be a thing. He's got 20 options coming out of the bullpen this year. And I'm telling you, if they don't work, we will critique every one of them until they start winning enough games.
100%.
And he's gonna tell you, and at some point it's gonna come down to choices versus options.
Yes,
I'm just looking at this team,
but he's not gonna have choices until the options give him data. Like he has to go through the options to get the necessary data to then make it a choice.
What do you call what Coach Cook went through with volleyball in that rotation?
I think early it's options, and then he made a choice.
Because listen, you think that didn't come with a price internally?
Oh, for sure. Every decision
is that the way you want it?
I don't know if you get that decision.
So the pressure is, as a coach or a position in leadership, is you better be communicating the whole way.
But here's the problem, right? Is even if you're communicating, that doesn't necessarily fix it.
No, I understand.
Right? Like
but you're giving yourself a chance.
Sure.
Without communication.
Yeah, you don't even have a chance.
You have no chance.
No, I agree with that. I'm not going to.
There's no way to dial in and pencil in the outcome.
Yeah, if you're not communicating, you have no chance whatsoever. I agree with that. But especially on a really talented team.
I mean, if somebody tells me I'm only looking at 10 carries, hey, we're looking at 10 to 25 or 20 to 25 plays, 10 carries. Hey, go get it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You're like, hey, Lawrence's LP is going to get 22.
Yeah. I mean, however it goes.
Or whatever. Right. Yeah. Amon's going to get
But I'm cool with
22.
I'm cool with knowing that.
But if you know, yes. I agree. It's much worse if you're sitting there and 1 week.
And I'm mad and I'm blowing my breath on the sidelines because I'm like, because I practice better than I do.
Yeah. And you go, and no one's told you.
Yeah.
And 1 week you got 8 carries. The next week you get 0. The next week you get 12. The next week you get 2. Right. That's worse.
Yeah.
I agree.
That's why I ride with.
That's the communication that needs to take place. But it's really hard to have that communication as clearly defined as that if you're still in the options phase and not in the choosing phase.
Yeah. The first couple of weeks with this schedule is going to be really interesting.
So again, you have to be really open to say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it.
It's like Penn State wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are good problems to have. Like, the mo money, mo problems. Like Penn State is the mo money, mo problems, but they're better problems to have.
Yeah.
Like it's better. You get better problems when you have more money.
No, I understand. I'd be a lot less.
There might be more.
I could be miserable with money, but I'd be a lot more miserable if I was poor.
Right. Like there's a difference. Like you might have fewer problems. Like how do I pay for groceries? How do I pay for rent?
No, you're exactly right.
Whereas you got a lot of money, you got a lot more problems, but they're better problems.
Speaking of which, he's taking his 1 point sum to the bank and laughing at all you haters.
Who?
Marcus.
Oh, you got sat? I thought it was 1.4. You got a raise?
I don't know what it is.
You got a raise to coach tight ends? Cool.
I try not to be in other people's pockets.
Hey, as long as they better be good tight ends. That's all I'm saying. Oh.
That's why we can't have nice things.
Hello. I'm a big Luke Lindemeyer guy.
Me too.
I know. You started that train. I'm just hopping on later.
Appreciate the credit.
Although I do feel like we forget that there's a former 5-star in the room too.
Yeah.
Like we just forgot that Macway just showed up one day.
It's almost like, shoot, man, you're afraid to get hurt.
Will you get past?
Well, I mean, it's just he's behind.
Sure.
Right? I mean, can you imagine the expression on people's faces when Coach Rule said, with Demetrius, he's a little behind probably where we thought because he had to have.
Yeah. But developmentally, that makes sense. If you miss a year, you're going to be behind.
Scary.
Well, and also they brought in a bunch of new wide receivers.
Don't think I can't relate.
What did we say?
Like, didn't we just recruit one of those last year? Did we just recruit one of those the year before? Oh, shoot, I'm never missing practice.
You're like, we got LP, we got Clinton.
Knock it off.
We got
sometimes 2 or 3 in 1 year.
We got Amon.
Like, you guys joking?
What's D'Angelo doing here? That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next. It's a little funny. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage.
It sounded better real time. My mind's telling me no.
I found.
What was with the quiver? Did you edit that in? Why was my voice quivering?
No, I didn't do it.
Isn't AI great?
Oh, did you send that to the amazing Daniel?
No, I'm gonna. I'm gonna.
Shane, at least the guys laughed. I mean, I don't mean to be singing a song from that particular individual, but my mind's telling me no. But my body.
It seems I don't know. It seems like you're a big fan. I don't really know. I mean, you said you were.
I am not.
You said you were a Drake guy, so I don't know.
It's not substantiated.
A minor. It's time for Bet On It. Brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook, the best place in Nebraska to place your sports bets.
So I asked Caleb. I was like, because he usually tells me what to ride with for music, and I was like, hey, I can't remember. Am I supposed to be a Kendrick Lamar guy or not? And he goes, he's all right. And I was like, okay, because I kind of I like Drake. And he goes, yeah. He goes, the diss track gets too much love. Like it's what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, I feel bad. I feel better.
You feel better?
No, because Out of Breath Brian crushed me for the Drake reference.
Well, and then also your other son, Breeze.
Micah.
You're like, I kind of ride with Drake, and he's like, that's on you. He couldn't disavow that fast enough. He's like, that's on you.
Breeze has much stronger opinions about things than normal people. Yeah, no. That's fine. That's fine. My mind's telling me no. Okay. Relax over there, short stack.
You asked like 5 times if I've edited it yet, so.
I didn't want it replayed because I know when you cut that stuff up, I hear them in succession, and that's probably my 12th or 13th one now. They're all good. They're all good.
Well, I know everybody was laughing.
I'm sorry. My bad.
I gotta find What's Amazing Daniel's Twitter handle?
It's the Amazing Daniel.
Do I not follow him?
Yeah,
that
was funny because we were talking about more money, more profit. Hey Shane, you're a miserable soul, but you'd be a lot less miserable with an extra $100 in your bank account, wouldn't you?
I don't know about a lot less miserable, but a little bit.
$100.
Amazing.
I can take out a light stretch that.
Amazing Daniel, drop your Twitter handle in the comments here so I can tag you.
I got it. I just give it to you.
Well, I'm trying.
Shane, how many weeks worth of groceries would $100 buy?
No, that's more like how many months? That's at least 2 months.
What?
I think it's about right.
Do you only eat ramen ever?
No.
Hey, so how many items did you get the other day at the 99-cent deal for Hy-Vee?
Probably 10.
10 items?
Yeah. 10 of the 99-cent ones, yeah.
And that's going to take you through how long?
I mean, that'll take me... I won't go through it all at once. I got items that I could kind of go through over a couple weeks.
That's wild.
I think that's close.
$100 is like lunch.
Oh, my God. For who?
Me and Natasha.
Rockefeller.
Good morning again.
Elon.
Wow.
No, that's aggressive. $100 is aggressive for lunch. Yeah, I don't spend that much on lunch.
You're giving me $100 lunch vibes in the quarter zip collared sweater, though.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I like to look nice.
Musk is probably using that for Kleenex.
They're still making him office across the street. He ain't quite back in good graces.
He's not quite there yet. Say, keep busy doing your little projects over here.
At least they balked on the tariffs for a while.
Yeah, they backed off those a minute.
Better tighten up that border security, though. They'll be right back. So this is I'm desperate.
Go to warhorse.casino.com, by the way.
I'm desperately trying to stick to sports, but
you're doing your best.
I am. I went down this rabbit hole at the airport in Champaign.
The pain?
And I was going through like historical list of rankings of presidents.
Okay.
I know it's weird, but because it's such loose criteria. Like, how do you decide?
It's really hard to define.
Like with a 2 or 3 party system, if you count independence and all.
Well,
that.
and there's very different
But you know who's in consensus on a lot of lists?
Who?
Ronald Reagan.
Pretty high.
Yeah. And he has a
not at the Chicken Shack in Champaign though. We know that.
He has. Who asked where Reagan was? You or Evan?
Evan. Where's Reagan?
He has a recorded spiel on tariffs.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that would go over like a lead balloon today.
Yeah.
He was very anti-tariff. And he had like this laundry list. So I went down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get into whatever. I'm not going to get into tariffs this morning.
I didn't know. So I was so young.
Historically, most presidents have been pretty aggressive. Yeah.
But I was like,
that's early. Yeah.
And I used to think, I was like, if they bring a guy back twice, that's probably decent. But not everybody can be Walter Mondale.
A lot of
Fritz. That's Fritz.
A lot of.
I used to love American history.
I do too.
But then but over time I couldn't figure out what to believe. So I was like, all right, that textbook's out. That textbook's out.
You spend too much time on TikTok.
I do. And I have a lot of, Burrs gets me that industrial foil.
Yeah.
So I can put a hat on.
Yeah, you put that.
Oh, yeah.
Put that
I got
tinfoil hat on.
And it's not even my fault. Kugler's the one that got me started on.
Yeah, you got to be careful.
Tinfoil hat, guys.
You got to be careful with guys like Kugler.
I mean, we're going back 20 years.
Because Kugler strikes, I don't know him nearly as well as you do. I barely know him at all. He's always been very nice to me, but we're not close. We didn't overlap.
Hard to tell his sarcasm?
Well, no, we didn't overlap. And so
I'm just talking about with his.
Well, so here's the problem is he's one of those guys that will kind of get you down that path because he thinks it's funny.
Oh, and then get me ran over.
And then you're like, oh, some of this makes sense. And he's like trolling you.
That's a good point.
And so he's like, oh, yeah. I mean, did you hear about the Dolphins? Not the Miami, but like, and so he gets you down this path and you're like, did you see this TikTok about how octopus are really aliens living in the ocean? And you're like, what the? And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then he's moved on. He never has thought about it again.
That's a good point.
I did that to a friend of mine. Shout out my guy, Dave. He listens to the show sometimes, but
That's pretty generic.
Yeah, Dave Sander. If you want if you want his government. Good dude, really fun time.
God, you get on my nerves.
But he loves Bob Seger.
Yeah,
loves Bob Seger. And
you did not just say Bob Seger.
He's pretty quiet.
Oh my gosh, he just came up.
Did he?
Oh boy.
So Dave loves Bob Seger, and so when we go and we do our jukebox days or whatever, he always plays Bob Seger. And one day I was just giving him a hard time, and I go, "Oh man, Seger, he's a derivative hack." And then I just start naming off people that sort of sound like Bob Seger from the same era. And I'm like, he's ripping off Cat Stevens and he's ripping off Simon and Garfunkel. I'm just like running through things. People don't even sound like Bob Seger sometimes. And he's just sitting there like staring at me, completely flabbergasted. Like a month later, he comes to me, he goes, man, I haven't stopped thinking about that, trying to figure out
you had moved on
if Bob Seger's derivative hack or not. I was like, oh man, I was just messing with you. Like I haven't thought about it at all since then. I was just in a mood that day.
And you wonder how people get on delayed response.
I feel like that with Kobe.
Yeah?
Yeah, my barber got me on that.
What did he get you on?
The conspiracy theory and Big Pharma and his pilot.
Yeah, you got to chill on some of that stuff, man. You said that to me like the week he died.
Yeah.
You're like, what about Chinese pharmaceuticals? And I'm like,
he wanted to take
or any professional aviator outside of SkyMex because he drives them for a living will be like, never get in a helicopter. Those things are death traps.
Yeah,
it's possible a helicopter is just a bad form of transportation.
I like foil.
Doesn't have to be a Chinese pharmaceutical deal.
When he was gonna move he wanted his own professional league in China. NBA felt threatened.
I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
God, I hate your delivery.
I'm sure.
Good morning again.
I'm sure Warhorse is glad they sponsored this one.
Yeah. We got some picks.
What do we got?
I don't know.
What do we got, Steve?
You know who I like?
Who?
I like Providence. I like Providence quite a bit.
I don't like Providence at all.
I know. So I figured you'd have some strong takes. I think they're catching 3.5.
They are catching 3.5.
Is it 3 in the hook?
It is 3 in the hook.
Why?
The only issue I have with this game is Creighton historically plays pretty poorly at Providence.
I like 3.5's not near enough.
So you think it's stinky?
Yep.
All right. So you like Providence plus the 3.5. What else?
Unfortunately, I actually like Washington, but I'm not going to lock it up.
Just afraid of the backlash. You don't want to get the haters.
Does that line make any sense whatsoever?
No, Washington's bad.
What do you think? Nebraska's tired?
That seems like they didn't come back, right? They stayed out there.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be tired. They're going to be fine. Honestly, those lines are pretty similar. in terms of the Nebraska and Creighton lines tonight.
I know, but the other one I'll lock up if you want to. Take Stanford on the money line.
I'm going to log on to the Homer Network. I'm going to take Nebraska, and I'm taking Creighton. Might throw a little parlay in there.
You're a hater.
HomerNetwork.com. That's EB. I'm Ravi.
Stanford will beat Wake Forest.
That's Bet On It, brought to you by War Sportsbook. Welcome back, Hurrdat Sports Radio. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill, reminding you, check out our friends over at Midland's Family Urgent Care. They've got the weight loss compounds that you need to help get your weight loss journey started, whether it's tirzepatide or semaglutide. They have you covered and can help you out. Get over that hump when diet and exercise just hasn't been getting you where you want to go. 402-810-9494 is the Millard Clinic. Get a consultation scheduled today and see if you qualify for help on your weight loss journey. That's Midland's Family Urgent Care. DB.
Yes, sir.
How you doing?
Well, I've recovered. I feel like there was a lot of overtures and barbs. And
from who?
I'm trying to just have a nice little sports talk show. And
from who?
Oh, I don't know.
What'd I do?
From who? You said, was there an owl up in this piece?
Was Shane being mean to you again?
Nah, I'm going to leave Shane alone because he controls the buttons.
My mind's telling me no. Let's get to our guy. Ramon here. Wants to talk about the Crawford Canelo fight we were talking about earlier. Let's bring Ramon up. Shane, what's going on, bud?
What's happening, you guys?
Racer Ramon.
I'm calling for a little bit of perspective and a little therapy.
What do we got?
Because I'm triggered and bothered about the Crawford Canelo fight, not about the fight itself, but why people have to try to leak details when the contract's not signed yet.
Because I get it. And believe me, Ramon, it makes the guys mad. It does. The boxers, the fighters don't like it.
It reminds me of like two people who are dating and they're not ready to tell the world yet. And somebody in the circle wants to say something and they're not supposed to say something. Or someone's pregnant and they're not ready to tell everybody they're pregnant yet. Why can't you keep it to yourself until it's official?
It's human. It's like Michael Jackson, buddy. It's human nature.
Yeah, it's troubling to me. I feel like those people shouldn't even know about it. Why are they in the room if they can't keep quiet?
I'm with you. Hey, while I've got you, have you seen American Primeval?
No, okay. I haven't.
No, I'm not. But I'm not on the record for recommending it. I just was asking because I don't want you hammering me in the parking lot at Westside that I told you to watch a bad show.
I'll tell you about one, though. You might be surprised. It's disturbing, but I really enjoyed it. It was Yellow Jackets. You guys heard of that?
Oh, yes, I have heard of that.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. That's like the soccer team that ends up being cannibals?
Well, yeah, but that's it's a little bit of a spoiler, too. But,
my bad.
Yeah,
I haven't watched it, so that's just what I know about it. That's my bad. That's my bad.
But they were on their way to a tournament and their plane crashed and they were trying to survive out there and it's really wild.
So that's I think that's loosely based on a true story of there was this rugby team that crashed in the Andes.
And I think that movie was called Alive or something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a movie or a documentary. Or I think there's been both.
It's a terrible movie.
But that's based like that. The rugby team's a true story where they turned to cannibalism. And a bunch of those guys survived. They made it out and lived their lives. And I'm just, maybe this is going too deep here, DB.
I'm just listening.
I'm not sure, if that's what I have to resort to. I'm not sure that I want to just hang around after that. How do you just go live a normal life after?
Well, those survivors were traumatized.
I would imagine they had to eat their teammates to survive.
Yeah.
I'm probably not just I'd be no, I'm cool here. My survival instinct, I'm going to be honest, is not real high.
You just going to tap out?
Yeah, I'd be listen, guys. Yeah, I'll call it. Like, I'm cool.
Well, my favorite part about Yellow Jackets though is that they skip around. They skip to present day, and then they go back to their time in the mountains, and then they go back to before that.
Mm-hmm.
So you wonder, like, why do people have these issues with each other? Then they'll skip to a different point, and you get to see why they had a problem. So,
all right. You got anything?
Well done and disturbing. Well done and disturbing.
Ramon here for cannibalism. All right, we appreciate it, Ramon.
Hey, you got to be careful around him. He's quick to label a guy, man. You got to protect your words, man.
I'm just kidding, Ramon. We appreciate it.
I'm Cannibal Ramon now?
Yes. That don't just answer to that when I call you that.
He's Hannibal Ramon now. That's what we're going to call him.
All right, buddy. Good talk.
All right, y'all.
Appreciate it.
Oh, man. No, yeah.
Shane, I told you I wanted to call Avery and tell her congratulations. Why have you not called Avery?
What are we calling Avery for?
I wanted to recognize her as part of our female team on
National Girls and Women's in Sports Day.
Is it girls too?
It's girls.
I feel bad saying girls. So if you say girls, I'm gonna say girls.
The official name of it is National Girls and Women in Sports Day.
Okay.
Because I think typically you differentiate like women's sports as professional and college, girls as high school and below.
Yeah.
So I think they're making sure everybody's included.
What he said.
I don't know. I'm just going by the name of the day.
Why you put your hands up?
Well, because like if I call it Black History Month, I'm not like doing a thing, you know? Like they don't call it African American History Month. I'm not trying to make a choice here. I just don't feel like I have options.
Oh, man.
You know, it's just called Black History Month.
And you got all over me for yogurt.
It's National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Why would I know about yogurt, DB?
No idea.
I don't no idea.
So Royce has my back.
What'd Royce say?
He's a factoid too, man. He's like that on social media. I think dude's pretty smart.
Is he like a well-actually guy like Steven or no?
No, he just knows a lot about a lot.
Okay.
He said the book Shane, it is alive.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that's what it was.
Yeah. No, that's a crazy. I don't know why I was talking about this with some people.
I'm not sitting through that, but I told myself I wasn't going to sit through American Primeval either.
And 6 episodes later, you're just.
Well, it was only 6. They rushed it. It was. I'm still mad
that you did it.
Yeah, I'm still mad. Boy, they made Brigham Young seem moral turpitude.
I'm not going to go down that path.
No, it was just. I mean, historical accuracy is in the eye of the beholder.
Not really, but that's okay. Historical narratives are in the eye of the beholder. Historical accuracy.
Ravi here for semantics.
Historical accuracy is what it is.
And why am I not surprised that Chris has seen American Primeval? He's an American Primeval guy.
Oh, your buddy?
Yes.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, remember?
I met him once. That checks out.
Oh, yeah. Chris, got a shovel? Cool. How soon I need to be there?
Whose car are we taking?
Yeah. I'll bring the dirt.
Speaking of people that are rushing a little bit.
She's here.
The NBA. Who's here? Oh, we got Ave?
Our bestie.
All right. Let's. Avery's on the phone here. Avery, what's going on?
Great. Good job, Shane. Why'd you put the name up? Oh, he can't get a hold of it.
That's one of my biggest pet peeves, Shane.
I know. There's only 2 things that make you mad.
Is when my mic's not on time, and when he puts the name.
And he cuts you. He cuts you off. He just cuts you off.
What's that, Robbie? Are you doing okay, Robbie?
Oh, he cut you off.
You're on.
Oh, now he's
this
mad.
This is live radio.
Listen,
what are you doing
here?
Now
he's mad. You just turned that man's mic clean.
You're on the air.
I think Sasha better get in here to break up this fight. Wow.
Are we doing that today?
Are you guys just going?
You got 3 minutes. Shouldn't you be talking?
Our audio's working today. We're good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're on. What's the problem?
You're the problem, Shane.
Sasha, get in here.
No, there's no problem here. What?
You keep turning my mic off. I'm going to choke the life out of you.
Oh.
We doing this today?
Fight.
We got 2 minutes. I'll go there.
Anna White.
You want me to go there today?
We're good. Let's chill. Let's chill. That's Guy. Less offensive than.
What guy?
That's the name of the group.
Just Guy? That's a weird name for a group.
Oh man, you weren't around in the '90s. The guy was the jam.
I was around in there. I don't know that group though.
Yeah.
You know, I do know.
What's up?
Our group chat, where I got lambasted a little bit for a trade that I proposed. That seems like it might be coming to fruition.
I did not know you had the trade app though.
Oh, I don't have the app. I do it on my computer. Like, it's not the app. It's just a website. But no, I spent a lot of time on the trade machine.
Yeah.
I love working on the trade machine. And so I'm putting together a trade because there's rumors, you know, Kevin Durant might get moved. Jimmy Butler wants to go to Phoenix. And so I'm starting to put things together. And so I put a 4-teamer together, which is probably not going to happen. I understand that. But I send it to you, Jacob, and Matty D, and I go, who says no? Yeah. It gets Kevin Durant to the Warriors. It gets Jimmy Butler to the Suns. It gets picks to the Suns for giving up KD. It gives a couple young assets to Miami, and it involves Detroit to make salaries work, and it gives them a couple picks for taking on salaries that nobody else wants, okay? It's a trade that works for everybody. Everybody gets compensated. Now, I'm assuming motivations, right? Because I agree with Jacob. I don't know why the Suns would want Jimmy Butler instead of Kevin Durant. I don't know why. That doesn't make sense to me. That appears to be something they're interested in, though, because they're like, yeah, we wanted to get rid of Beal, but nobody's taking that contract. It might be the worst contract in basketball. And he's got a no-trade clause, so even if somebody else is like, yeah, we'll take a chance on Bradley Beal, Bradley Beal also has to say yes. So Bradley Beal moving is probably not in the cards. Thank you, the Wizards, for that little poison pill they stuck in that contract. But I'm just saying, if this thing goes down, that Durant ends up on the Warriors and Jimmy Butler ends up on the Suns, the victory lap I'm going to take is going to be so annoying.
And Lord, more or less than normal.
Oh, way more. You think I'm petty now. I'm going to put timestamps on that text and post it on Twitter. That's all for today. We might have a different producer tomorrow. Depends on if I kill him or not after the show.
Oh.
That's DB. I'm Ravi. Lulla, more Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next, or coming up tomorrow.
Telling me no. My body.
No.
I'm sorry. My bad.
No, that was good. Thank you.